expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 13th of June. Lucky for some. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Are we on the brink of all-out war in the Middle East? Well, Israel launches a major attack on Iran, killing several of Tehran's top military leaders and damaging their nuclear sites. Iran has sworn the attack will not go unpunished, with the president saying the powerful response will make Israel regret its foolish act.
You have Donald Trump saying, I told Iran to make a deal, and now saying they must make a deal before there is nothing left. I'll bring you more details shortly.
Well, fresh strikes, it seems, are underway now in Iran, with the city of Shiraz having been bombed, according to reports coming out of Iran. The Israeli military, speaking now, are telling their citizens to be prepared for a long campaign.
Commemoration events are taking place in Nottingham today to mark 2 years since Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates were killed by Valdo Calacane.
And have the government found a sneaky way to technically end the use of asylum seeker hotels? Well, reports that the government is simply buying up the hotels and converting them into other accommodation. Goodness me, we'll put that to a Labour MP.
And David Lammy admits that Brits could be stopped from entering Gibraltar by the Spanish police. Are we surrendering our sovereignty? We'll get the thoughts of people who actually live there.
And a new Trojan horse drug could add several years to the lives of terminal cancer patients and give them more time with their loved ones. We'll be joined by a health expert on this potential medical breakthrough. Well, I've got to say, Emily, you're going to have to put up with me a bit more next week than we were all expecting.
Oh, yes.
I was due to fly to Israel this weekend, but the airspace is closed. I now won't be going. I'll be staying in London this coming week. But, goodness me, this could be a really serious moment for the Middle East and, frankly, the wider world.
Well, we've been hearing from IDF spokespeople, haven't we? And it sounds as though this is very much stage one of their military campaign. How far could this go? Are they justified in this action? Please do get your thoughts in on this. Are you worried that this could escalate further? What do you think Britain's role should be in all of this? Should we attempt to stay out of it, or should we defend Israel as our ally?
Of course, the last time that Iran sent drones and missiles and all sorts of ballistics at Israel, British planes were amongst the coalition that shot those missiles down. But there's ambiguity from Number 10 today as to whether or not Britain would scramble our jets. Of course, we've got a hefty base nearby. Whether we would scramble our jets to stop further Iranian attacks.
Yeah, and this comes just days after we've sanctioned a number of Israeli politicians. But we've got some breaking news. 7 men have been found guilty at Manchester Minshall Street Crown Court of various sexual offences against 2 teenage girls in Rochdale between 2001 and 2006. We'll bring you more detail on that as we get it. But let's turn to the headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. Plenty more on that breaking news from Manchester later this hour. First, though, we turn to the Middle East, where Iran is now calling Israel's latest military strikes a, quote, declaration of war. That's after a wave of attacks on nuclear and military sites. Israel says its new offensive, Operation Rising Lion, has only just begun, targeting scientists it claims are working on Iran's nuclear weapons programme. The Israeli military says 200 fighter jets were involved, and reports suggest the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad smuggled drones into Iran in advance. In response, Iran has launched around 100 drones, but they're seen as largely symbolic so far. Tehran's supreme leader has vowed punishment after key commanders and scientists were killed, while Israel is warning more strikes may follow. Iran wants the UN Security Council to intervene, but Israel says this is about, quote, survival. In India, recovery teams are still working through the wreckage of the Air India crash in Ahmedabad, where more than 240 people died. A police official says 6 bodies have now been released to families who could identify loved ones by sight. DNA-verified remains will take longer. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the hospital where the sole survivor, a British national, is recovering, who says he has no idea how he made it out alive. The flight heading to London Gatwick crashed into a doctor's hostel shortly after takeoff. We now know at least 8 people on the ground also died. Investigators are still searching for the black boxes to determine what went wrong. Well, there was a 4th night of unrest in Northern Ireland last night, with bricks and beer kegs thrown at police in Portadown. The violence follows peaceful protests on Monday in Ballymena over an alleged sexual assault, but police say that was hijacked by racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured, families have been hiding in attics, and a leisure centre was torched after being used as a shelter. The PSNI Chief Constable says ethnic minorities have been targeted in what's now being called racist thuggery. More than 15 arrests have been made so far, and officers from Scotland are now being brought in as reinforcements. In the Commons, MPs have begun a highly charged debate today on assisted dying. The report stage of Kim Leadbeater's private member's bill is underway, with votes on key amendments expected throughout the day. A final decision on the bill itself is likely next Friday. Meanwhile, outside Parliament, demonstrators from both sides have gathered. Campaigners against assisted dying say that bill poses serious risks. But supporters, including patients with terminal diagnosis, are rallying in favour of change and they're urging MPs to back what they call a compassionate choice at the end of life. Kemi Badenoch is calling for an end to the windfall tax on oil and gas firms and a return to new drilling licences. Speaking at the Scottish Conservative Conference in Edinburgh, the Tory leader has accused the Labour government of killing the energy sector. But Labour's hit back, saying it's an unfunded £10 billion pledge that risks pushing up mortgages and bills. They say the Tories are now in a race with Nigel Farage's Reform Party to repeat Liz Truss-style economics. And patients in England are the first in the world to receive a new so-called Trojan horse therapy that targets blood cancer with pinpoint precision. It's called belantamab mafodotin, and it works by smuggling toxic chemotherapy directly into myeloma cells, sparing healthy ones and cutting side effects. Clinical trials show it can halt the disease for nearly 3 times longer than current treatments. Doctors say this could be the start of a new era in cancer and see 1,500 people treated each year. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 7 minutes past midday, and Israel has assassinated the head of Iran's armed forces and at least 20 senior commanders in a preemptive strike on the regime's nuclear programmes.
Yes, and Iran has launched more than 100 drones towards Israel this morning in retaliation, but Israeli military now say they've completed their response to strike them down.
An Israeli military spokesperson has said that Iran launched more than 100 drones towards Israel this morning after the country vowed retaliation for Israel's strikes. He added the country was in for a rough few hours.
Well, for his part, Keir Starmer has said the government has urged all parties to step back and reduce tensions urgently amidst fears of an all-out war.
Well, let's get the very latest now with our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, the IDF have been issuing a briefing in the last few moments.
Yeah, they've been warning people to prepare for potentially a lengthy campaign here. Israel says that it will continue its operations in Iran until they have achieved their goal, and their goal is to very significantly degrade and dismantle the nuclear programme of Iran. Now, Iran has always maintained it is a nuclear programme for peaceful purposes, but Israel and, of course, Western allies, including, of course, the US with the Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth just saying the other day, actually, that they believed Iran was currently attempting to make nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons. So they will continue their operations, the Israelis say, until they have degraded that programme and Iran is no longer a threat to the region and to the wider world. Benjamin Netanyahu said earlier in a statement that their intelligence suggests that Iran had enriched enough uranium to be able to produce 9 nuclear bombs and would have the capacity to produce more as they continue to enrich this uranium. They would, according to Benjamin Netanyahu, quoting his intelligence sources, be able to weaponize that enriched uranium within months, at most a year. It's not something that Israel, he said, was prepared to stand by and let happen. They have long said that they would intervene when they felt it got to a point where there was an imminent threat from Iran. Of course, this comes against the backdrop of these nuclear talks between the US and between Iran, aimed at trying to find a peaceful way through this, a solution to this issue and not have military involvement. But those talks really haven't got anywhere. And President Trump has certainly in recent months expressed his frustration at the way in which those talks have been progressing. So we await to see what will happen, whether these talks will actually be back on track again this weekend or not. But in the meantime, these operations, it seems, are continuing, with reports again today of more attacks on Iranian infrastructure and cities. The city of Shiraz reporting multiple explosions just about an hour ago.
Not an easy thing to do for the IDF to be able to precisely target nuclear capabilities, an incredibly dangerous thing to do. Do we get the impression that they've been planning this for weeks, months, years even?
Years, without a doubt. They've been planning this for a very long time. And just like we saw last October with the attacks by Israel that degraded and killed, of course, the leader of Hezbollah, one of Iran's proxies, terrorist group operating out of southern Lebanon, with all of these walkie-talkie and other communication device explosions that they'd infiltrated over a long period of time. They'd been planning this. They took out Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, and they've done exactly the same in Iran. Yeah. They've taken out the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Corps, Guards Corps, other senior military leaders, at least 6 nuclear scientists, and they've attacked nuclear installations, including the Natanz nuclear plant, which is seen as a vital component of the moves by Iran to develop nuclear weapons.
People are saying this is escalatory, but my goodness me, if Iran were to get its hands on a nuclear weapon, then without a doubt, Saudi Arabia would want a nuclear weapon too. The Iranian proxies might have their hands on them. Iraq you could see how suddenly the Middle East would be a region bristling with nuclear warheads, and that would not be a place that the world wants to be. But Catherine Forster, our political correspondent, is here with us because one of the most extraordinary things about what happened overnight is that it seemed to happen without American involvement.
Yes, Marco Rubio said it was unilateral. I went to Number 10 to say, did we know about this? And they said, look, would never comment on intelligence. But it seems that they were out of the loop because David Lammy had been due to go to the United States today. That trip is off. And, of course, there was due to be that 6th round of negotiations with Iran, and the US was due to happen on Sunday, as Mark has referred to. And it's only yesterday that Donald Trump was talking about wanting to avert a war, but also saying there is a chance of massive conflict. Now, he's been on Truth Social, and he said Iran was given chance after chance to make a deal, going on to say they must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. Ends, just do it before it is too late. God bless you all. I think it is worth remembering that it was Donald Trump who pulled the United States out of that international deal, which was aiming to slow Iran's advance to nuclear weapons, back in his first term of office. Meanwhile, a much more calm response from the UK government, as you would expect, talking about the need for de-escalation. We do understand that there is a phone call taking place between France, Britain and Germany now on the situation. Obviously, things evolving very rapidly.
That's the E3 group that was formed in the early 2000s, specifically with regard to Iran.
Is there a question over whether Israel trusts Britain as an ally at the moment? There have been mixed messages, haven't there, from this Labour government?
Well, there certainly have, and it's only just a couple of days ago that the UK government took the step of sanctioning a couple of pretty hard right members of the Israeli cabinet. That has not gone down well. It's not gone down well with America either. And, of course, over the last few weeks, the government's criticism of what's going on in Gaza has become more and more blatant. The PM has referred to what's happening in Gaza as intolerable on several occasions. At the moment, we know that there's been no UK military involvement. Let's see how this plays out.
OK, well, Catherine Forster, thank you very much indeed for that very latest there. Let's Let's take a break from the Middle East for the moment. We will be back there, of course, as things develop. It is a developing situation. But here at home, that breaking news that 7 men have been found guilty at Manchester Minshall Street Crown Court of various sexual offences against 2 teenage girls in Rochdale between 2001 and 2006. Well,
This is the moment when child abuser Naheem Akram confronted fellow defendant Nisar Hussain after his police interview. Akram had just been quizzed by police over a video of a bottle being used to penetrate a child during a sexual assault in a taxi. He's seen here leaving the interview room and shouting there were 4 people in the car and pointing to Hussain, saying it was him. These 2 men were part of a Rochdale abuse gang split into 2 groups. Those linked to market stalls and those who worked as taxi drivers. Here's Mohammed Shahzad being questioned about that incident.
Now, have you ever had sex with a white girl in your taxi?
Sex with a white girl in my taxi? No, sorry. Taxi is a place of work, you don't do.
I have to ask the questions.
No, sorry.
As he takes questions on child abuse, Shahzad puts on his religious skull cap.
Have you ever engaged in that sort of behaviour with a woman?
No. Okay. I respect women more than that, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, should I say.
Mohammed Zahid, nicknamed Bossman, is the only defendant who abused both of the victims in this trial.
Do you recognise that female?
No.
Okay. Do you recognise that female?
No comment.
He sold lingerie at the market and raped one of the victims while she was in her school uniform. The prosecution said that if a man wanted sex with a young girl, he would pay Zahid a modest sum of money and a girl would be supplied. That is how it worked in Rochdale. The 2 girls in this case were abused in the 2000s. They were attacked in alleyways, warehouses, taxis, in filthy houses or flats, on rank mattresses in basements, in a grim and sordid existence. One of the victims said she could have told the police the names of over 100 or more men who had abused her, but it is just 7 who were found guilty in this trial. Mohammed Zahid, Kasir Bashir, Mushtaq Ahmed, Rohiz Khan, Mohammed Shahzad, Nisar Hussain, Naheem Akram. They now face lengthy prison sentences. But Kasir Bashir did not attend this trial. GB News understands that he absconded on bail shortly before it started. His whereabouts are unknown, but officers are hunting him down. During the trial, Akram, Hussain and Shahzad were dramatically remanded in custody. GB News understands that police had information that they were planning to leave the country. But now they cannot escape justice, thanks to the bravery of the victims who put their abusers to shame. These victims told the terrifying truth about the depravity they endured at the hands of this Pakistani grooming gang. Their lives were destroyed, but they bravely took to the stand to give evidence, while most of the defendants were cowards, refusing to take questions in court. But those 2 women left the court with dignity, and finally, they have some justice. Charlie Peters, GB News, Rochdale.
Well, thanks very much for Charlie for bringing us that. Just the very latest prosecution in what is an unending long line of these sorts of cases.
Yeah, that was all related to sexual offences against girls in Rochdale between 2001 and 2006. We're still seeing these convictions. We're still seeing these sentences come through. This ongoing scandal. We'll be keeping an eye on it for as long as is needed here on GB News. But this is Good Afternoon On GB News, of course, we're going to be in Israel as well after the break, but also...
As small boat crossings continue to surge, we're going to be joined by the Labour Member of Parliament for Dover to discuss how what he calls the war on small boat crossings can be won. Well, that's coming up after this short break.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think that things have gone a little bit too far in this country. The fact of the matter is that any well-trained journalist does know that free speech does have to exist in a certain environment where you can't be defamatory and you can't incite racial hatred or violence. We know that because we're trained to recognise it. But what's happened here in this country is we've chucked the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
What's happened now is that everyone is starting to react to fairly, not innocent phrases exactly, but we're starting to become really obsessive about things that don't actually matter and people should be allowed to speak about. Lucy Connolly's she's a case in point. If you think that the actual Prime Minister now is leading the charge, along with Shabnam Mahmood, to actually shorten jail sentences or have no jail sentences for some criminals, and yet Lucy Connolly is in prison for 31 months and loses her appeal, you've got to start asking yourself, what is going on here?
And also, can I just add, Paul Richards, Keir Starmer asked about Lucy Connolly. He says, oh, sorry, I'm not across the case. Come on, pull the other leg. By the way, I don't want to just talk about Lucy Connolly. This is free speech in Britain. Free speech, in my book, does not exist in Britain.
Well, technically, you're right, of course, because we can't just say whatever we like. We can't walk into a crowded theatre and shout fire, right? And I can't say so-and-so's a paedophile or so-and-so's a terrorist without, there being some evidence for that. We can't just say whatever we like anywhere we like. We have boundaries and rules. And I would say to the Americans coming over and lecturing us on how to run the place, they display total ignorance of our system so often. If you vox pop American citizens, they don't know where England is. They think our Prime Minister is King Charles.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Tomorrow, join GB News as we mark the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, hosted by Charlie Peters, Miriam Cates and me, Cameron Walker, live from Buckingham Palace. From 10 a.m. tomorrow on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 24 minutes past midday. Now, it is a designated red day in the English Channel. That means the conditions for small boat crossings are there. And so far, 350 small boat migrants have made their way across the Channel, with more boats being sighted already.
Yeah, it could be another record day. Mike Tapp, though, the Labour MP for Dover and Deal, has declared enough is enough on these small boat crossings, and he's been teasing a bit of a major plan. Let's take a listen.
We're facing a national security crisis.
And Labour's very own Robert Jenrick joins us in the studio. Mike Tapp, I've got to ask, I mean, this is a dramatic video, but it is an incredibly serious subject.
It is, and this is something I'm taking very seriously, and I know the government are. And the point in this video is two things. Firstly, to explain what we're doing so far, and there has been a lot of work over the last year, record deportation, processing has sped up, and getting the French to change their laws around tackling boats in shallow waters. I know you mentioned there about the Red Day crossings today, and I've had some pictures come in, unverified at this moment, of the French in the water trying to drag those boats back, and that's really important.
Is that the first time that we've seen something like that happen?
It is, and I think we all get frustrated. I do, the viewers do, I'm sure you guys do too, of those photos of the French stood there watching this happen. Now, they were constrained by the laws. Yvette Cooper's worked really hard to, with her diplomatic approach with the French, to get that changed. And I think, and we'll see if it's verified later, that started today, and that's really good news.
A couple of photos of the French getting in the water isn't going to convince the public that this issue is going to be solved, though, is it?
We need to bring those small boat crossings down. There is a lot of work going on behind the scenes internationally against the gangs and domestically. But the fact is, we need to see that in the results, and there's things like offshore processing.
You genuinely think smashing the gangs is the way to achieve this? Because it's looking highly unlikely, Mike.
It's very much a part of the answer to the problem. It's a very complex issue. There's no sort of one policy that's going to sort this out, but things like offshore processing centres in the UK. Will the French allow us to put our military in their waters? Probably not, but it's a question worth asking. Our work around the ECHR is going to be really important, because we can't have these judgments abusing the ECHR.
Would you be happy to see the Royal Navy out there in the waters, potentially taking the boats back to France?
I think if it's fitting and working with the French, with their permission, that could have an impact. But of course, that's a bigger diplomatic question. Like, I get really frustrated if we can't deport a foreign paedophile. Something is not working, and that's why I'm really pleased to see the Home Office talking about tightening up the ECHR. So we can't do that. We've had Keir Starmer talking about offshore return centres if we can't.
But of course, you'd need more than, I think it's 31 member states of the ECHR. You'd need unanimity to agree any change to those rules. That's not going to happen.
No, but there's a lot you can do domestically. So if you look at the way Denmark have worked with the ECHR, and it's ensuring that the judgments are right and that it's not being misinterpreted. You know, we should be deporting violent foreign criminals, and that's what we're looking at doing.
Now, I've got to put to you something that the Chief Secretary of the Treasury said on the television last night. According to my colleagues in the press gallery in the lobby in Parliament, there was the most extraordinary briefing with the Prime Minister's spokesman where they sort of completely stonewalled these questions. Darren James, who's the Chief Secretary, said last night that the majority of people in these boats are children, babies and women. Number 10 today is not willing to stand by that, but they do say that they have full confidence in the Chief Secretary. I mean, it's just flat out wrong, isn't it?
Well, Darren's a fantastic minister, and the work that he's been doing around the economy must not be ignored.
Irrelevant.
What I will say on this, I'll be really clear that we do see majority of those crossing being young men. Now, that's not acceptable, but a part of the reason for that is because they're relying on family reunion visas.
Why would you say they're children and women then, mainly?
You'll have to ask Darren,
you'll have to
ask Darren about that. I think he's a fantastic minister, but I'm being really clear now that what we're seeing coming over...
He's a senior cabinet minister. I mean, will you be, as the MP on the front line of this crisis, with your constituency seeing this happen every single day, will you meet with him and tell him the reality of this? I mean, government publishes its own figures that say at least 70% of these are adult men. More than 20% then are people under the age of 18, some of whom might suggest that maybe those people are lying about their ages as well. I mean, it's overwhelmingly men. It just beggars belief that he would say it wasn't.
I'm really clear, and I work with the Home Office, and I'm talking to them regularly about what I want to see going forward. Hence some of the detail in the video around processing centres, more deportations, getting harder on the smuggling gangs, working in shallow water, potentially using the military. We're doing a lot of this. We're moving this forward. There's no quick fix, but we're taking it very seriously.
I do have to put one more question to you, because there are reports that we've seen that the government have come up with some kind of sneaky way to technically stop the use of migrant hotels, essentially just sneakily buying them up, converting them into other accommodation in areas like Bristol, Cardiff, and then they could say, oh, we've ended the use of migrant hotels, but actually they're just multi-occupancy accommodation and private rentals.
There's a number of ways of doing this. The first is bringing down the small boat crossings. The second is deporting more that simply shouldn't be here. We're already seeing record numbers. And the third is potentially processing centres here to deal with that. If that's using what used to be a hotel, I don't have a particular problem with that. Let's get this moving. Let's get them deported.
It's not what people wanted, though, when they wanted the end of the use of the hotels for our taxpayers' money just to be used to buy them up.
Well,
it's a bit sneaky, don't you think?
My view is there's lots of different ways of doing this, and really it pins on taking out the smuggling gangs, increasing those deportations, processing quickly. Already record numbers. We've done a lot in a year, but there's more to go, and I'm sure there's more to come.
OK, well, we must say that the government has said that targeted measures will ensure that police have the powers they need to keep communities safe, filling the gap left over by removing previous powers.
OK, well, we're going to go back to Israel to get more reaction to what's been happening over there and in Iran. Tel Aviv, speak to senior reporter at the iPaper, Benjamin Butterworth. Benjamin, thank you so much. You're in Israel. Tell us what it's been like over the last hours.
Well, in the last few hours, there's a sense of calm before the storm, but it broke in the middle of the night, just before 3 a.m, and I'm in a hotel on the beach in central Tel Aviv, and at 2:59 a.m, I was woken by sirens in the streets. I pulled the window open and there were these loud wailing noises, something that is familiar to people in Israel because they regularly have missile or drone attacks from Iran, from Gaza and from Yemen. But this one, it quickly became clear, was a very different situation. Moments after the wailing in the street, my phone started making a blisteringly loud sound, and a message that said extreme alert, followed by Hebrew, came up on my phone. And then at that point, as we'd been told by the people in the hotel when we arrived in anxiety that something could happen, we all had to go to the stairwells of the hotel where everybody gathered for a while we tried to work out what happened. There was a man who was in my stairwell of the hotel who is in the Israeli Air Force, and he said his commander had told him this is something different, this is something far more serious going on. And so it was starting to reveal itself at that point. I think people were pretty nervous in the late hours, and Israeli friends I spoke to were saying, you know, they knew this was something going on that was more serious. Of course, Netanyahu went on to speak. Since then, I had a briefing from someone in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel later in the morning that said that even they didn't know that this was going to happen. So, of course, it was an extremely tightly controlled secret. And if you look around Tel Aviv, today was meant to be Tel Aviv's Pride March. It was the event I was here for. It attracts about 300,000 people to the streets. But when I look outside now, there's almost nobody in the streets because Israel has declared a state of emergency. The beach, which is in front of the hotel, has very few people on it, and people are being advised not to go outside unless they absolutely have to. Not because the drones haven't been intercepted, they have, but because they are anxious about what's going to come in the next hours or days.
OK, well, Benjamin Butterworth, do stay safe out there. Thanks indeed for joining us live from Tel Aviv as Israel declares that state of emergency.
Absolutely. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Still to come, we're going to be crossing over to Nottingham, where commemoration events are taking place to mark the second anniversary of the Nottingham attacks.
First, though, here's your very latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. 33 minutes past midday. A recap on the situation in the Middle East then, and Iran is calling Israel's latest military strikes a declaration of war. That's after a wave of attacks on nuclear and military sites. Israel says its new offensive, Operation Rising Lion, has only just begun, targeting scientists it claims were working on Iran's nuclear weapons program. The Israeli military says 200 fighter jets were involved, and reports suggest Mossad smuggled drones into Iran in advance. In response, Iran launched around 100 drones, but they're seen as largely symbolic so far. Tehran's supreme leader has vowed punishment after key commanders and nuclear scientists were killed, while Israel is warning more strikes may follow. Iran wants the UN Security Council to intervene, but Israel says this is about survival. Recovery teams are still working through the wreckage of the Air India crash in Ahmedabad, where more than 240 people died. A police official says 6 bodies have now been released to families who could identify loved ones by sight. DNA-verified remains will take longer. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the hospital where the sole survivor, a British national, is recovering, who says he has no idea how he made it out alive. The flight heading to London Gatwick crashed into a doctor's hostel shortly after takeoff. We now know at least 8 people on the ground also died. Investigators are still searching the wreckage for the black boxes to determine what went wrong. In Northern Ireland, there has been a fourth night of unrest with bricks and beer kegs thrown at police in Portadown. That violence follows a peaceful protest on Monday over an alleged sexual assault. The police say it was hijacked by, quote, racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured and families have had to hide in attics. The PSNI chief constable says ethnic minorities have been targeted in what's now being called racist thuggery. More than 15 arrests have been made so far, and officers from Scotland are being brought in as reinforcements. And in Parliament, MPs have begun a highly charged debate today on assisted dying. The report stage of Kim Leadbeater's private members' bill is underway in the Commons, with votes on key amendments expected throughout the day. Outside Parliament, demonstrators from both sides have gathered, with campaigners against assisted dying saying the bill poses serious risks. But supporters, including patients with terminal diagnoses, are rallying in favour of change. They're urging MPs to back what they call a compassionate choice at the end of life. Those are the latest headlines for now. You're up to date with all the top stories. Plenty more still to come with Tom and Emily after this.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another humid day and very warm out there for many of us, with plenty of sunshine initially, but also the threat of showers and even some torrential thunderstorms by the end of the day. Those thunderstorms moving up from the south, moving up from northern France and the Channel with this system. But ahead of that, we do have some sunshine across England and Wales, rising temperatures, rising humidity, a lot of cloud for northern England, for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showers here and some heavy downpours in places, but these will be hit and miss. They'll be coming and going. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise across central and eastern England, we could see widely the mid-20s, but possibility of 29 Celsius in London and the southeast. However, rising temperatures, rising humidity and low pressure arriving from the west will result in some very unsettled weather as we end the day. Some wet weather moving into the southwest of England and Wales by evening. The rush hour could be very soggy. Northern Ireland and Scotland continue with the sunshine and showers theme as we go into the evening. Again, some heavy downpours, particularly across central and northern Scotland. Drier and brighter for southern Scotland, into parts of northern England and eastern England for now, but we are particularly concerned about this area of torrential thunderstorms developing over northern France, and it looks likely that it will hit East Anglia in the southeast during the evening and the early hours of Saturday. If this hits East Anglia in the southeast, it would bring large hail, gusty winds, torrential rainfall and strong winds and serious impacts from this lively weather, but it could just head in the other direction and miss East Anglia in the southeast. So something to be concerned about, but not a guarantee that we'll see those thunderstorms arrive in eastern parts of England overnight. Now, elsewhere, a lot of showers as we start off Saturday, and again, potential for some thunderstorms, this time through central areas, but away from the storms, some sunshine.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Congestion is expected on the M4 eastbound from junction 28 Tredegar Park to junction 26 Malpas. In Kirklees, a broken down vehicle on the M62 eastbound between junctions 26 and 27 has closed one lane. Staffordshire's A50 eastbound faces 30-minute delays between the A522 and A518 due to congestion. A breakdown on the A42 northbound between the M42 and junction 12 has resulted in one lane closure. And on the trains, expect significant disruptions between London St Pancras International and Luton due to weather impacts. Stay informed. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. Some breaking news to bring you. It's official. 350 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel this day so far.
And hundreds more are apparently in the water. Let's go straight to Mark White, hope to bring us more on this. Another red day, would you say?
Yeah, a very busy day out in the English Channel as we speak. And we reported just on Wednesday, actually, that we had crossed 15,000 small boat arrivals for the year so far, which is very significant. And I think that was about 33% ahead, at least, of where we were at this point last year. However, it looks like by the end of today, we'll have passed 16,000 because 350 have arrived already into Dover, according to our producer Chris, who's been counting them in as they come into Dover Harbour on board these Border Force vessels. And now lifeboats, hundreds more, are out there in the Channel as we speak. It's another situation where Border Force has been overwhelmed by the number of boats coming across, because they have called out Dover lifeboat, Ramsgate lifeboat to assist Border Force. And I was just speaking just before you came to me to Chris, and he tells me that Dover lifeboat just coming into the harbour with another boatload of migrants. So a very worrying situation, of course, in terms of this continued
I'm interested to know, Chris, our guy down there, our man down there, how does he go about counting them? Has he literally just got a tally? He's just watching them come off the boats? He's not, making any assumptions over how many people might be on a boat, literally counting them in?
It's rudimentary, but it's accurate. He has a clicker, and he films it for us, and he clicks them off as they come off. They normally come off sort of in groups of 10, and he's just counting as he goes. And it's incredible that, when we get the actual official figures out, he's only ever usually 2 or 3 out. So when you're talking about maybe 700 crossing, to be only 2 or 3 out is amazing. So, we're right up to date and are way ahead of everyone else, and just being able to bring our audience. Listen, I know it infuriates so many people, but as a channel, it's important for us to continue documenting these major milestones in this ongoing crisis.
And importantly, we can see not only the numbers on those boats, but who is on those boats. We can see it with our own eyes.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, we get the reports all the time about these people, poor, wretched people fleeing.
Would you say it's mainly young women and little children?
I would say that absolutely it is not mainly young women and little children. And since this crisis has begun, official figures have shown, actually, that we're about 85% or so young men coming across the English Channel, represented a number of nations, multiple nations, Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria, many African countries, including Eritrea, Sudan, Southern Sudan.
Well, Mark White, thank you very much for that, because you have brilliantly teed us up for our very next point. We're joined by our political editor, Christopher Hope, because, Christopher, huge consternation at the heart of government at the moment. They seem to not quite recognise that the boats are mainly full of young men.
Yes, hi Tom. Hi Emily. Yeah, extraordinary moment in this briefing we get daily with the government spokesman. Now, last night on BBC Question Time, Darren Jones, number 2 in the Treasury, of course, his department says they can empty these asylum hotels by 2029. We'll wait and see if that happens. But he said this. He said that the majority of the people in these boats, these small boats, are children, babies and women when they cross the channel. That is demonstrably untrue, according to the government's own figures. Mark White there said 89%, but even going on what the government says, since 2018, 70% of illegal arrivals across the channel are men aged over the age of 18. We see these pictures coming in, we see it out there, and yet in this briefing with number 10 spokesman, he refused to correct the minister. He said extraordinarily that the government has confidence in Darren Jones, who's the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, and all they say simply is this: they They said simply that we've been clear that our focus is on tackling these vile gangs who deal in human misery. Moments ago, Mike Tapp, the MP for Dover and Deal, of course, a Labour MP, was on your show, Tom, and you asked him about this, and he said to you that we do see the majority of those crossing are young men. You'll have to ask Darren about that, his comments. But it just strikes me they are literally gaslighting GB News viewers and listeners to say that most people crossing the channel are, as I say here, I'll say it again, they say it's children, babies and women. That is not the case, according to the government's own figures and what we see with our own eyes. And this is what infuriates people, I think, watching what's happening here. Will the government not own up to what is happening, instead trying to mislead people, apparently, on the national broadcaster?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at footage right now of people arriving in Dover on the coast here, and they are men. They are men, the majority of men. Of course, there will be women and children. Of course, there are. We've seen the statistics. They are available to everyone if you want to see them. But as we can see,
Can you see a single little child on that boat?
Oh, there.
Can you? There may be one or two. Oh, there's one being carried there. But let's just repeat. I've got the data in front of me. Since 2018, 70% adult males. But of course, in more recent years, that's actually shifted. 87% of people arriving on these boats are over 18. 88% of those are men. Of the 13% of arrivals who say they're under 18, 78% are boys.
Yeah, it's boys and men, isn't it, Christopher?
Yes, it just beggars belief. And I think part of the problem this government has with this crisis is not saying what is happening, not being clear about what we can see, what the government says, and trying to... Yes, of course, in many cases, I'm sure, on these migrants crossing, they've got difficult stories to tell. It's been very, very hard for them. But they are not women and children and babies. They are young men of working age. And until we start talking about the issue as it actually is, you'll continue to have people feeling being misled about the problem by our ministers.
Titanic, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. We're going to
Men
get that
first.
clip, actually, as soon as possible, because it is quite shocking what a government minister has claimed on national television. Christopher Hope, thank you very much indeed, our political editor there in Westminster. Well, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Temperatures are on the rise this week, particularly across parts of Spain and Portugal. It's likely we'll see heatwave conditions over the coming days. And with the hot temperatures comes plenty of sunshine, particularly across Spain, Portugal, though we can't rule out a few showers across southern parts of France, northern parts of Italy on Saturday. But otherwise, it's plenty of hot sunshine, particularly across Italy, where we'll start to see temperatures move into the mid-30s. And that sunshine is set to continue into next week, along with the hot weather.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow, join GB News as we mark the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, hosted by Charlie Peters, Miriam Cates and me, Cameron Walker, live from Buckingham Palace. From 10 a.m. tomorrow on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 1. Now, it's a busy day of news, but we shouldn't forget the government has agreed a new border deal between Gibraltar and Spain, clearing the way to finalise a post-Brexit agreement between the EU and Westminster in that area.
Yes, so there'll now be dual border control checks for arrivals by air at Gibraltar Airport, carried out by Gibraltar and Spanish officials. This is what Gibraltar's Chief Minister had to say.
Remember that when a British citizen arrives at Gibraltar Airport, they have to show their passport to Gibraltar Passport Control. Anyway, we are separate immigration jurisdictions to the United Kingdom. At the moment, the vast majority of those arriving at Gibraltar Airport from the United Kingdom, the vast majority, I won't give you the percentage, but I think it's upwards of the 90%, use Gibraltar Airport to go to Spain. So they go past Gibraltar Passport Control, they leave the airport and they go straight to Spanish passport control to enter the Schengen area. What we're doing is we're bringing those two closer together.
Well, that's what the Chief Minister of Gibraltar had to say, but let's speak to the leader of the Together Gibraltar Party, Nick Calamaro. Nick, there's a lot of consternation over here in the UK that this is, for the first time, Spanish and EU officials working on Gibraltar territory who would have the right to turn away a Brit, for example, who wanted to visit Gibraltar, who the EU didn't want to be in there.
Gibraltarian territory, first off, not Gibraltar. But I think the thing that's worth pointing out is, I mean, you've already called it there in your headline a surrender. And I think that's totally missing the mark when actually it was Boris Johnson's government that left Gibraltar by the wayside, specifically excluding us from their 2020 EU deal, because obviously they didn't want Gibraltar to get in the way of the wider UK agreement. Now, we can debate whether that was fair or not, but at the end of the day, we were left out to dry and then had to go and make our own deal, which the government here has been working incredibly hard to do for the last 5 years. The other thing that I think has been left out from this conversation is just what life on the ground looks like. I mean, we're talking about thousands of Spanish workers coming in, some of my co-workers. We're talking about European doctors and nurses who are absolutely vital to keeping the healthcare system here running. So I think it's just deeply unfair for people who haven't been to Gibraltar.
Is it okay that a Brit stopped by an EU guard in Gibraltar could then be shipped off to Spain for questioning? I mean, that's under the terms of the deal.
Well, the terms of the deal haven't come out in full yet, but I do know that specific carve-outs have been made to ensure that Gibraltarian forces are the ones who deal with situations like that. But at the end of the day, a deal like this is always about give and take, and Gibraltar was given a very limited hand by being left out of that initial UK-EU arrangement. So it is a matter of...
Nick, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm terribly sorry. We've run to the end of the hour, but really appreciate your time. Nick Calamaro there from the Together Gibraltar Party. We've got lots more coming up. Yes, a minister claiming that everyone on the boats, the majority of those on the boats, are women and children. Can you believe that?
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another humid day and very warm out there for many of us, with plenty of sunshine initially, but also the threat of showers and even some torrential thunderstorms by the end of the day. Those thunderstorms moving up from the south, moving up from northern France and the Channel with this system. But ahead of that, we do have some sunshine across England and Wales, rising temperatures, rising humidity, a lot of cloud for northern England, for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showers here and some heavy downpours in places, but these will be hit and miss. They'll be coming and going. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise across central and eastern England, we could see widely the mid-20s, but possibility of 29 Celsius in London and the southeast. However, rising temperatures, rising humidity and low pressure arriving from the west will result in some very unsettled weather as we end the day. Some wet weather moving into the southwest of England and Wales by evening. The rush hour could be very soggy. Northern Ireland and Scotland continue with the sunshine and showers theme as we go into the evening. Again, some heavy downpours, particularly across central and northern Scotland. Drier and brighter for southern Scotland, into parts of northern England and eastern England for now, but we are particularly concerned about this area of torrential thunderstorms developing over northern France, and it looks likely that it will hit East Anglia in the southeast during the evening and the early hours of Saturday. If this hits East Anglia in the southeast, it would bring large hail, gusty winds, torrential rainfall and strong winds and serious impacts from this lively weather, but it could just head in the other direction and miss East Anglia in the southeast. So something to be concerned about, but not a guarantee that we'll see those thunderstorms arrive in eastern parts of England overnight. Now, elsewhere, a lot of showers as we start off Saturday, and again, potential for some thunderstorms, this time through central areas, but away from the storms, some sunshine.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
You have a very nice accent, and I always thought but obviously I'm totally wrong. I've learned something already straight away.
I mean, we've interviewed together on countless occasions. I thought you would have picked up on my English accent.
Oh no, you're just changing it now. You're changing it a bit here.
Yeah, I'm just putting it on for you, mate.
Well, I'll tell you this, Chesney. I think it's amazing that we're talking about a tour next March for a man like you, and that shows you the extent to which you have to be organised to do these things. I thought like you're advertising this for this month or next month. Why the need to go so early?
Oh no, it's just to give people plenty of advance notice. You know, these days life comes up very fast, doesn't it? So I'm always touring, Eamon. I've actually got some headline shows coming up next week. I'm in Cardiff and Southampton, but we've just announced this headline tour for next year. So I thought I'd get it out there and let people know in advance. You know.
Good.
And Chesney, just looking at your Instagram now, I mean, you've got a sense of humour, haven't you? Because you've been putting videos out there saying people think I'm a one-hit wonder, but let me tell you, there'll be a lot more songs than just the one that you're most famous for.
Yes. Contrary to popular belief, there are other songs. So looking forward, I've got a new album out right now, Ellie, and it's all been very, very well received. I'm so honoured and grateful for that. And so, yeah, I'll be performing some of this new album out on the road soon. You guys should come.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 13th of June. It's 4 years. It's our 4-year anniversary here at GB News. I'm Emily Carver.
Such a lucky day to launch on. Friday the 13th. It was actually a Sunday. But I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Are we on the brink of all-out war in the Middle East? Well, Israel launches a major attack on Iran, killing several of Tehran's top military leaders and damaging their nuclear sites. Iran has sworn the attack will not go unpunished.
Grieving families are continuing their wait for answers after 241 people were killed when an Air India plane crashed on its way to London. There was only one survivor, a British national.
See that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women.
Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, says that a majority of small boat asylum seekers are young children and women. That was a major row on Question Time last night, but the data disagrees with him.
And there's a new Trojan horse drug in town that could add several years to the lives of terminal cancer patients and give them more time with their loved ones. We're going to be joined by a health expert to tell us more. Can't get over that clip from Question Time, but anyway, we're going to get straight to the headlines because we've got a lot jam-packed into this hour, so stick with us.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. Iran is calling Israel's latest military strikes a declaration of war. That's after a wave of attacks on nuclear and military sites. Israel says its new offensive, Operation Rising Lion, has only just begun, targeting scientists it claims are working on Iran's nuclear weapons program. The Israeli military says 200 fighter jets were involved, and reports suggest Mossad smuggled drones into Iran in advance. In response, Iran has launched around 100 drones, but they're seen as largely symbolic so far. Tehran's supreme leader has vowed punishment after key commanders and scientists were killed, while Israel warns more strikes may follow. Iran wants the United Nations Security Council to now intervene, but Israel says this is about survival. Teams in India are still working through the wreckage of the airplane crash in Ahmedabad, which killed more than 240 people. A police official says 6 bodies have now been released to families who could identify loved ones by sight, but DNA-verified remains will no longer take. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the hospital where the sole survivor, a British national, is recovering. He says he has no idea how he made it out alive. The flight heading to London Gatwick crashed into a doctor's hostel shortly after takeoff. At least 8 people on the ground also died. Investigators are now searching for the black boxes to determine what went wrong. A 4th night of unrest in Northern Ireland, with bricks and beer kegs thrown at police in Portadown. The violence follows a peaceful protest in Ballymena on Monday over an alleged sexual assault, but police say that was hijacked by, quote, racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured, families have hidden in attics, and a leisure centre used as a shelter was torched. The PSNI Chief Constable says ethnic minorities have been targeted. More than 15 arrests have been made so far, and officers from Scotland are being brought in as reinforcements. MPs have begun a highly charged debate in the Commons today on assisted dying. The report stage of Kim Leadbeater's private member's bill is underway, with votes on key amendments expected throughout the day. Outside Parliament, demonstrators from both sides have gathered. Campaigners against the bill say it poses serious risks around coercion and consent. But supporters, including patients with terminal diagnoses, are rallying in favour of change, and they're urging MPs to back what they call a compassionate and choice at the end of life. Kemi Badenoch is calling for an end to the windfall tax on oil and gas firms and a return to the new drilling licences. Speaking at the Scottish Conservative conference in Edinburgh, the Tory leader has accused the UK government of killing the energy sector. Labour's hitting back, though, saying it's an unfunded £10 billion pledge that risks pushing up mortgages and bills. They say the Tories are in a race with Nigel Farage to repeat Liz Truss-style economics. And patients in England are the first in the world to receive a new therapy that targets blood cancer with pinpoint precision. It works by smuggling toxic chemotherapy directly into myeloma cells, sparing healthy ones and cutting side effects. Clinical trials show it can halt the disease for nearly 3 times longer than current treatments. Around 1,500 patients every year could benefit, and doctors say this could be the start of a new era in cancer treatment. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 5 minutes past 1. You're with me and Tom Harwood. Now, it seems like it's another red day in the Channel. 350 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel. Hundreds more are currently in the water. And Mark White is here with us to bring the very latest from the coast. What do we know then?
Well, our producer in Kent telling us that Dover Lifeboat is now in the process of disembarking another boatload of migrants to add to the 350 that have arrived so far. So that's probably going to push it up over 400. There are other small boats out there at the moment. Border Force vessel Volunteer is currently in the process of picking up migrants from another small boat. There's another under escort from the French and at least one more. So initial estimates, we were told, were about 700 in the waters today heading towards the UK. Not all will necessarily make it. They might all come, but we'll just have to wait. The next hour or two will reveal that.
And to be clear, that's if the boats get into distress in the French half of the Channel, within 13 miles of the French shoreline, the French could take them back to France.
Well, yes, that would be the only time they would do that, because what happens is the course of action is the people smugglers push out the boat, or it comes, what they call a taxi boat, from a nearby river, comes down the coast, picks up the migrants. As soon as it's in the water, the French police on the beach do not intervene. We're told that's changing, but for the moment, at least, they don't intervene. Then it gets an escort. The French say, you know, do you require assistance? They say, no, thank you, we're trying to get to the UK, of course. And the only time the French will intervene is if clearly, very clearly, the people are in distress. The boat has somehow buckled in on itself with the numbers that it's carrying, and then they will offer assistance. But the rest of the time, they will just escort that small boat right across the busy shipping lanes till it gets to UK waters. Waiting on the other side are normally Border Force vessels. But today we can reveal that because, again, it's a phenomenally busy day in the Channel, Border Force have been overwhelmed. They've had to call on the assistance of the lifeboats. Controversially, of course, many people do not like to see the lifeboats used in this way. But both Ramsgate and Dover lifeboats have both been called out to help pick up migrants because it is so busy.
Should we bring in Catherine Forster, our political correspondent, on this as well? Because there's a bit of a row brewing, isn't there, at the heart of government over who exactly is in these boats?
Yes, indeed. Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, was on Question Time last night and has upset quite a lot of people with a comment that he made. Let's have a look first at what he said.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not. No, they're not.
No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Let me be... No.
Well, we know don't we? We've got the Home Office's own statistics, which say that since January 2018, 70% were adult males aged over 18. That number has actually gone up subsequently. But Number 10 were asked about this at lunchtime. They did not want to comment about it. All they said was, we have been clear that our focus is on tackling these vile gangs who deal in human misery. Now, Darren Jones was clearly incorrect, but he hasn't actually apologised or issued a correction, which is understandably upsetting people.
This really matters. I mean, let's leave aside for a second the fact that the Chief Secretary of the Treasury is the man who's supposed to know about data and numbers and be on top of this sort of stuff. Let's leave that to one side. The fact that you have one of the most senior and visible members of the Cabinet... how many hours are we now? I mean, we're more than sort of 14 hours since that was broadcast, and he hasn't said a single peep to the media. There's no contrition, there's no apology, there's no backing up this ludicrous suggestion that these boats look like Titanic lifeboats, not the sort of things that we actually see in the Channel.
Well, honestly, I believe he must have misspoke, because it cannot be possible that he actually believes that the majority of people in these boats are children. Look, anybody who's watched the television at all knows that they are largely men, young men. And Zia Yusuf, I thought it was very interesting, of Reform, corrected him, and there was applause for Zia Yusuf from the Question Time audience. The public knows this. I cannot believe that Darren Jones...
It's a classic tactic, though, isn't it? Because if you say they're all women, children and babies, it shuts down the debate. Because who on earth would want to turn back children and babies? Who would be so cruel as to do that? So it's a combination of gaslighting the public. I mean, potentially it's possible he was misspeaking, but I don't think so. I think it's a strategy there, Catherine.
He's telling people to not believe their own eyes when they see these pictures. I mean, it's just the most extraordinary position for a government minister.
I think it might be that sometimes you say things and they come out wrong. I think it was odd that he didn't correct himself then, because it was clearly not correct. Anybody who ever watches television would know it's not correct. But that also, I guess the strategy, as Lee said, soonest mended. I think it probably might have been an idea to have apologised.
And it's worth pointing that out, of course, that some of the children will be older boys, won't they?
Yes, this happens a lot, where you get people that are clearly over 18, but they know that the treatment of a child, a minor, is going to be different and often better than an adult male. So many, where they think they can get away with it, do claim that they are under 18 and subsequently found out not to be a child after all. I should say that, you know, on most boats that come across, you will see maybe a couple of women and a couple of children. That is done for a very specific and calculated reason by the people smugglers. They put them on these boats so that when they get to UK waters, they pop on their mobile phone, they call the Coast Guard 999, and they say, we've got women and children on board this vessel. But they are a tiny minority, and most recently the figures, 70% since 2018, but now in recent years it's well over 80%, 83 at least % of males who are adult males who are on these small boats.
Well, thank you very much, Mark White and Catherine Forster. We're going to bring you what Number 10 has said. They say that the Prime Minister has got confidence in the King's Minister Darren Jones after that remark. Number 10 added, we have been clear that our focus is on tackling these vile gangs who deal in human misery.
Right, OK, well, we're going to turn our attention to Nottingham now, because families of the Nottingham attack victims are holding a memorial walk 2 years on from those killings.
Well, Grace O'Malley Kumar, Barnaby Webber and Ian Coates were brutally stabbed to death by Valdo Calocane.
Well, let's cross over now to GB News presenter Martin Daubney, who is joining us from Nottingham. Martin, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's the second anniversary today of that tragic triple killing, the murder by Valdo Calocane in Nottingham. I'm with the families, the survivors of that tragedy today. Dr. Sanj Kumar, father of Grace. This is Jamie Coates, the son of Ian Coates, who actually was killed on this precise spot 2 years ago. Emma Webber, mother of Barnaby. David, father of Barnaby, and Charlie on the end there, brother of Barnaby. Let's start with you, if I could, Jamie. We're here at a precise spot where your father fell 2 years ago. What's your memories of that before moving forward is going to come out?
Spot in particular, I have to come past here every single week, so it's nothing that I can really forget about. For me, I try and put a positive on it. I don't count it as the place he was murdered. I count it as the place where he was had his last rest. Every time I drive past or walk by, or even on the adjacent street, I always look up, just expecting to see him or to see some flowers, or just see anything other than just it being empty. But I'm really honoured to have everybody that's made this journey here today, to be here. Yeah, I want to remember it as a positive thing and not a negative. And I think everyone here, all the families together, doing this in remembrance is a good thing.
And Emma, you gave a speech at the site where your boy fell. It was incredible. I don't know how you did it, but you did. You faced up to that moment. Talk us through your recollections of what you want to happen next.
Well, as I said, you know, he and Grace had to endure most awful horror, unforgivable and unfathomable, minutes literally away from safety on such a busy road. And it's well documented, the failures, but we've come together, united by this awful tragedy. But you know, these guys are family now, and whatever it takes, for however long it takes, we'll get justice, because he's not serving the right sentence. In fact, he's not serving a sentence at all. But more importantly, all of the failures and all of those who just didn't do their jobs properly, you know, we just want the truth, and the right thing needs to be done. And I know that Dr. Kumar is more adept at speaking on that than me, but just look at the people that have come here, and look how far that walk was.
Yeah. It's taken us about 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's a good hour to get here, and you know, don't want to go into all of that, but that just goes to prove how awful that was and how much worse it probably could have been had he not eventually been stopped. But we will.
Going to stop David, Charlie. I was stood there as you knelt, in silence at that spot. It was a heartbreaking moment to watch. Must have been insurmountably grief.
I mean, it's I had to take myself away at one point, because it's just to believe that's where my son and his beautiful friend Grace fell. It's just such a monster, and I'm so heartbroken that we're here. Emma said we're like family now. We are, but for all the wrong reasons.
Charlie, I saw you put your flower down, you kissed your hand, and you put that on the pavement. Mate, what a moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the worst place on earth for us, that road. It's really hard to go to. But yeah, I think for the wrong reasons, it's nice to come here, like Dad said, and lay down those flowers so we can remember everything that happened 2 years ago here today. And so I haven't been to this road before, so it's really nice to come here as well and remember Ian as well as Grace and Barney.
You've been a superb, brave lad. I'll come over to you now, because you came to see us at GBNews in the studio at Westminster. You brought those 3 reports. You've been to see Wes Streeting. Now, moving forward, it's about resolution, it's about justice, it's making sure this never happens again.
Martin, first of all, these 2 years they've flown for me. To me, it still feels like yesterday. And the reason it has is because we've not had, as families, a moment's peace. We have fought from minute one of the police telling us there's nothing they could have done when this monster was wanted on a warrant. And they said that nothing could have been done. From that moment on, we have fought. We have fought to get information that we're entitled to. There's 3 reports that I brought to you in the studio. None of those 3 reports actually still tell us how many health workers, how many doctors were actually involved. They haven't even labelled them. So my meeting with Wes Streeting on the 9th, on Monday this week, need to be held accountable. If you don't get accountability, you will not stop tragedies like this. And I said to Wes Streeting, it is in your power to bring mental health related homicide to an end. He has the power. Why? Because if you hold people responsible, this will not happen. This happened because this man was sectioned 4 times. They didn't change his treatment. They put a man who was risky out in the community, and they did it 4 times over. So we need accountability. Without that, we will not move forward, and mental health-related homicide will not stop in our country, and we need it stopped.
Emma Webber, going to come to you, because the resolve I see in your face every time I see you, I mean, I don't know how you do it, but I don't think you're ever going to stop till you get justice on this, are you?
No, and you tell the truth. You know, we've got the inquiry, but that doesn't negate the fact that these individuals in the health trusts, in the police forces, some sadly in the council, and anywhere else, that they shouldn't be held to account now. Because if you don't do your job properly, then you have to pay the consequences, whatever that is. And be sure that we will right this wrong, whatever it takes.
Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off. Look, thank you for allowing me to walk with you today. It's been a genuine privilege, really has. I grew up on the street over there, behind here. You know, this killing happened. I walk home from school on these streets. It's just heartbreaking for the city, for these individuals. But thanks for allowing us into your space today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Martin.
Signing off. Thanks.
Oh, Martin, that was incredibly moving. Thank you so much. Please do send our best wishes and love to the families there. Devastating to think 2 years on, but they're continuing their battle for justice. It's very inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so relatable to so many people. I mean, I don't know how many times I walked home from a nightclub at university and down a quiet road, and you just think.
Yeah, I'm in awe of those parents who are, doing everything that they can to try and make sure that this never happens again and that they get justice for their children. Quite incredible. Well, we're going to take a quick break because we have lots more coming up on today's show, so do stick with us.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Tomorrow, join GB News as we mark the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, hosted by Charlie Peters, Miriam Cates and me, Cameron Walker, live from Buckingham Palace. From 10 a.m. tomorrow on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. At 24 minutes past 1, Iran says that Israel's strikes on its nuclear facilities are a declaration of war, as Donald Trump warns that even more brutal attacks could be to come.
Well, joining us live from Tel Aviv is former Israeli government spokesperson Elon Levy. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Would you say, from the IDF's perspective, this has been a successful campaign so far?
From Israel's perspective, the operation to wipe out the Iranian regime's illegal nuclear weapons program and ballistic missile program has been an outstanding success. Israel was able to activate drones inside Iranian soil to decapitate the Iranian military leadership, including the head of the Revolutionary Guards, the head of its air force, the head of the Iranian military. And over 12 hours on, there is yet to be any Iranian retaliation. Israel is bracing for difficult days ahead because Iran is going to retaliate. But Israel is saying, if we didn't act now, the Iranian regime would have got nuclear weapons. Diplomacy has failed. It was now or never.
What do you say to the concern that the international community has that Israel acted alone, that there wasn't the United States on board with this attack, that there wasn't a sort of a wider coalition of support? And now there's some suggestion that, for example, were Iran to fire a further barrage of drones and missiles at Israel, well, unlike the time several months ago, British jets would not help to intercept that. Do you worry that Israel's coalition is fracturing?
Obviously, Israel would have preferred to attack Iran's illegal nuclear weapons program together with international partners. But for Britain, of course, it's easier for Israel to do the dirty work of protecting its interests in the region than to intervene directly. The whole world knows that when Israel's back is against the wall, it will do what is necessary to eliminate an existential threat. It did it in 1981 when Israel destroyed Saddam Hussein's nuclear reactor. Thank God Saddam Hussein doesn't have nuclear weapons now. It did it in 2007 when it took out Bashar al-Assad's nuclear weapons. And could you imagine an Assad regime with nuclear weapons now? And Israel says, look, it's now or never. And if we don't do it, no one else will. So, of course, Israel would like the support of allies in helping to defend us from the Iranian ballistic missiles that are certainly coming. But a nuclear Iran would be the worst case scenario, and that we can't allow.
I mean, there have been many international attempts to prevent Iran from gaining this capability, to prevent them from gaining nuclear capabilities. What evidence is there, though, that Iran was only days away from a nuclear bomb?
Well, we know that Iran already had enough highly enriched uranium for about 10 nuclear weapons. That much was confirmed by the IAEA, which said that Iran has 400 kilos of highly enriched uranium at 60%. There is no civilian justification for that. But Israel says it had to act now because it noticed two things. One, Iran had accelerated its moves towards weaponizing those nuclear resources. Obviously, that's not something the IAEA would pick up on. That's Israeli intelligence. And two, Iran is massively ramping up its production of ballistic missiles. Israel says it was on course to have 20,000 ballistic missiles within 6 years, making it the biggest missile manufacturer in the world. And those missiles are, of course, being sold to Russia to continue killing Europeans in Ukraine. So Israel says we had a narrow window of opportunity. Diplomacy has failed. And the Iranian regime, with only a 1-week breakout to go from 60% to 90% uranium, and what intelligence is telling us about steps to turn it into a bomb, if it doesn't happen now, it would simply be too late.
Elon, I'm interested to know how Israel views Britain as an ally at the moment. Does Israel trust Britain as an ally? I think it's fair to say there have been some mixed messages, perhaps from our government. What would you say to that?
Israel and the UK are allies, and it was fantastic that the UK engaged the RAF to defend Israel from the last time the Iranian regime launched ballistic missiles at Israel. And I hope that if the Iranian regime foolishly tries to retaliate this time, Britain would help to defend its ally from such Iranian aggression.
So why was there no conversation then had with our government or authorities over this most recent attack on Iran then?
Well, I don't know what conversations may or may not have been happening behind the scenes, but obviously the element of surprise here was absolutely critical because Israel managed to catch everyone off guard. I mean, I myself didn't think it was going to happen until everyone in Israel received an alert at 3 o'clock in the morning, a push notification to our phones saying there is now a special state of emergency. Watch the news.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely extraordinary. Took everyone off guard, perhaps even took the Americans off guard. But I've got to ask about the concerns for escalation, because last time, when Israel took out sort of targeted strikes on Iranian consulates and Iranian property, there was a response, but it was contained. It was tit, tat, done. This time feels different. This time seems like there could be the potential for serious escalation in the region. There could be war.
First of all, let's not underestimate let's not downplay what the Iranian regime did last time. The last 2 ballistic missile attacks on Israel were the biggest ballistic missile attacks in world history. There was nothing symbolic or tit for tat about them. They were intended to cause serious damage. And Israel knows that the Iranian regime may try to retaliate with ballistic missiles and overpower our missile defenses, and Israelis know that they will have to run to bomb shelters when that happens. But I'd note 2 things. First of all, the Iranian regime doesn't have the proxy armies that it was depending on to protect its nuclear facilities. Hezbollah said it's not going to intervene. Hamas isn't in a position to intervene. Iran is alone. That's part of the window of opportunity. And the second thing is that Israel knows that although war is bad and dangerous and destructive, we're well aware of that, a nuclear-armed Iran is the worst-case scenario because Iran is openly sworn to Israel's destruction. The supreme leader said only recently Israel is a cancer that must be eradicated. And we simply cannot allow a hostile regime sworn to our destruction to have weapons of mass destruction. So war is bad, it's dangerous, but a nuclear Iran would be intolerable.
Elon, we've got to wrap up this conversation, but I've just got to ask one final question. Would Israel welcome a war with Iran?
No, Israel doesn't want war with Iran. Israel would like nothing more than peace with Iran. But we have an irreconcilable conflict with Iran. Israel wants to exist, and Iran doesn't want Israel to exist. And Iran is racing towards weapons in order to stop Israel from existing. So Israel would like the Iranian nuclear weapons program to be addressed diplomatically and peacefully. But there you have even President Trump saying we gave them a chance, they didn't take it, diplomacy hasn't worked. And that means that a military response, a dangerous one that is going to, I'm going to have to run to a bomb shelter, maybe now during the interview, maybe in an hour, maybe tonight, is simply the last resort to stop Iran from going nuclear and having the weapons to destroy this country.
OK, well, Elon Levo, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the channel today. Stay safe. That was Israeli government spokesperson, former Israeli government spokesperson.
Yeah, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. And there's lots more to come because reports emerge that the government is buying up hotels to reduce the ballooning cost of housing asylum seekers in those hotels. But what exactly does that mean? I mean, is that going to solve the problem if the ownership of the hotel simply shifts? We'll get to that thorny issue after your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. The top stories at 1:30. Iran is calling Israel's latest military strikes a declaration of war after a wave of attacks on nuclear and military sites. Israel says its new offensive, Operation Rising Lion, has only just begun, targeting scientists it claims are working on Iran's nuclear weapons program. The Israeli military says 200 fighter jets were involved, and reports suggest Mossad smuggled drones into Iran in advance. In response, Iran has launched around 100 drones, but they're seen as largely symbolic so far. Tehran's supreme leader has vowed punishment after key commanders and scientists were killed, while Israel warns more strikes may follow. Iran wants the UN Security Council to intervene, but Israel says this is about survival. One of the black boxes from the Air India crash in Ahmedabad has been found, according to police officials. Recovery teams, though, are still working through the wreckage where more than 240 people died after the plane crashed into a doctor's hostel just after takeoff. 6 bodies have now been returned to families who could identify them. DNA confirmed remains will take longer. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the scene and met survivors, including the only one from the flight, a British national who says he has no idea how he made it out alive. At least 8 other people on the ground also died. In Northern Ireland, there's been a 4th night of unrest, with bricks and beer kegs thrown at police in Portadown. The violence follows a peaceful protest in Ballymena on Monday over an alleged sexual assault, but police say that was hijacked by, quote, racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured, families have hidden in attics, and a leisure centre used as a shelter was torched. The PSNI Chief Constable says ethnic minorities have been targeted in what's now being called racist thuggery. More than 15 arrests have been made so far, and officers from Scotland are now being brought in as reinforcements. And MPs in the Commons are debating the assisted dying bill. The report stage of Kim Leadbeater's private member's bill is underway, with votes on key amendments expected throughout the day today. Outside Parliament, meanwhile, demonstrators from both sides have gathered. Campaigners against assisted dying say the bill poses serious risks. But supporters, including patients with terminal diagnoses, are rallying in favour of change and urging MPs to back what they call a compassionate choice at the end of life. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup of all the top stories at 2 o'clock, and Tom and Emily will be back after this.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another humid day and very warm out there for many of us, with plenty of sunshine initially, but also the threat of showers and even some torrential thunderstorms by the end of the day. Those thunderstorms moving up from the south, moving up from northern France and the Channel with this system. But ahead of that, we do have some sunshine across England and Wales, rising temperatures, rising humidity, a lot of cloud for northern England, for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showers here and some heavy downpours in places, but these will be hit and miss. They'll be coming and going. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise across central and eastern England, we could see widely the mid-20s, but possibility of 29 Celsius in London and the southeast. However, rising temperatures, rising humidity and low pressure arriving from the west will result in some very unsettled weather as we end the day. Some wet weather moving into the southwest of England and Wales by evening. The rush hour could be very soggy. Northern Ireland and Scotland continue with the sunshine and showers theme as we go into the evening. Again, some heavy downpours, particularly across central and northern Scotland. Drier and brighter for southern Scotland, into parts of northern England and eastern England for now, but we are particularly concerned about this area of torrential thunderstorms developing over northern France, and it looks likely that it will hit East Anglia in the southeast during the evening and the early hours of Saturday. If this hits East Anglia in the southeast, it would bring large hail, gusty winds, torrential rainfall and strong winds and serious impacts from this lively weather, but it could just head in the other direction and miss East Anglia in the southeast. So something to be concerned about, but not a guarantee that we'll see those thunderstorms arrive in eastern parts of England overnight. Now, elsewhere, a lot of showers as we start off Saturday, and again, potential for some thunderstorms, this time through central areas, but away from the storms, some sunshine.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 eastbound between junctions 17 and 16, a broken down vehicle partially blocks the road. The A458 near Landfair Cairinian has diversions due to an accident. In Staffordshire, the A50 eastbound between the A522 and A518 Uttoxeter East has 30-minute delays. In Suffolk, the A11 northbound between the A14 and A1065 has 10-minute hold-ups. And on the trains, major disruption continues on East Midlands Railway between London St Pancras International and Luton. Stay informed. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 1:39. It's a busy day for news, but recovery teams, they're still working through the wreckage of the Air India crash in Ahmedabad. More than 290 people have died, are known to have died, including 241 passengers on board that plane.
Well, a police official says that 6 bodies have been released to the families who could identify loved ones by sight. DNA-verified remains will take longer.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the hospital where the sole survivor, a British national, is recovering. He says the survivor says he has no idea how he made it out alive.
Well, Air India and the Indian government are looking at several aspects of the Boeing plane's crash in Ahmedabad, including issues with the jet's engine thrust, its flaps, and why the landing gear remained open.
OK, well, aviation expert Sally Gethin joins us now in the studio. Sally, absolutely shocking incident yesterday, of course. We've learnt quite a bit since, haven't we?
We've learnt a lot, but obviously the investigation will take a long time to complete. But already it seems that they've found one of the black boxes, which will be a relief. It will provide a lot more information immediately. And obviously, we're looking now at whether it could be an issue with the aircraft, because it seems very unusual that the pilots were able to continue trying to pilot the airplane, but they issued a mayday call before it actually exploded in a fireball.
Looking at some of the video footage that we were able to see, and it is incredible how in 2025 we do usually now get to see quite a lot of this video evidence. It looked like the plane was struggling to take off, dipping down and trying to get up and just wasn't able to gain height. What are the best theories that we have for why that could have been the case?
So what we saw was it used the full length of the runway. It seems that the flaps were not deployed, which they should have been deployed at that stage to give more lift to the takeoff manoeuvre. And then as it climbed, it seemed to climb all right, but then it levelled off. And we saw that it was slightly nose up, which suggests that the crew were trying to force it up to pitch up to a climb mode, but then it absolutely gradually descended. So there are some theories circulating. For example, that the pilots communicated that they had a loss of thrust or power, which is very concerning, suggests potentially an issue with the actual aircraft. And also the fact that it just would not achieve that climb, that altitude. It's so unusual, given the fact it was perfect weather as well. Everything else seems to have been in place. And if the pilots had any concern while they were barrelling down the runway that they could have aborted, there's a point when you can still abort that takeoff.
And this miracle survivor. One person survived this hideous incident. Seat 11A, we know that. We know he's a British national. Sadly, his brother appears to have died in the very same crash. I mean, it's hard to really think how someone could have survived such a thing, but clearly where he was positioned saved his life.
There is something inexplicable about how this one individual survived. We're grateful that he did survive. I think his survival will be integral to the learning curve for aircraft design engineers, for aerospace manufacturers, because they will want to see what were the forces at work that enabled this particular passenger in that seat to survive. It also might be involved with the position of the aircraft, the way it hit that building. Obviously, we can see there are some parts of that aircraft fuselage still intact. Conventional wisdom has it that the rear of the aircraft affords a bit more protection to passengers, but clearly not in this case.
I mean, looking at the layout of the aeroplane, it did seem that 11A was the seat by the emergency exit. And
yes.
Whether that door could have been blown out when the plane actually landed, that the sort of fuselage had that shock, the door was out, he was sort of thrown out without doing anything himself. But it seems, having seen that video that we just played on our screens there, of just the size of the fireball, the tons and tons of aviation fuel that went up in flames, as you say, it just seems extraordinary that someone was able to survive this.
Yes, it is extraordinary, and you're right that the aircraft was fully laden with fuel for the long journey ahead, and that multiplied the impact. I just want to add that Japan has actually opted to, for the country of Japan, the government has decided to mandate its airlines, Japan Airlines and All Nippon Airways, to ground their B787 Dreamliner fleet.
Wow.
But that's extraordinary, because this is such a safe plane up until this point.
Yes, but it doesn't indicate that necessarily there is a flaw with the 787, because the US officials that are also flying to be part of the investigation, the Federal Aviation Administration and also the NTSB, which looks into safety issues, have both stated that there is no need for grounding the 787 at this point. But sometimes what you see has happened with the 737 MAX is that has a domino effect, and then sometimes other airlines just follow suit anyway. And that will be a major concern to global airlines, because it is really a workhorse of the skies for long-haul intercontinental travel.
Well, we know that this particular plane had performed many a flight. Sally Gethin, thank you very much indeed, aviation expert. Really appreciate it. If you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Temperatures are on the rise this week, particularly across parts of Spain and Portugal. It's likely we'll see heatwave conditions over the coming days. And with the hot temperatures comes plenty of sunshine, particularly across Spain, Portugal, though we can't rule out a few showers across southern parts of France, northern parts of Italy on Saturday. But otherwise, it's plenty of hot sunshine, particularly across Italy, where we'll start to see temperatures move into the mid-30s. And that sunshine is set to continue into next week, along with the hot weather.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, do stay with us here on Good Afternoon Britain. We'll be joined by a health expert next to tell us more about this so-called Trojan horse drug that could prolong the lives of terminally ill cancer patients. Is this the breakthrough that many have been looking for? Stay tuned to find out more.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
What do you think? Is there personal agendas being pushed in schools by maybe individual teachers, or perhaps it's the ethos of the entire school?
I don't think it's not widespread, but there are isolated incidents where, you hear about teachers who have put too much of their own personal opinion into things. And it's actually in the Teaching Standards of England, Part 2, about your professional and personal conduct as well, and also the prevent duty. So I think it's not widespread, but we do hear of cases where teachers have been struck off for this behaviour.
So are there quite strict guidelines then, Christine, on what teachers can bring to the classroom? And would you know if a teacher is stepping outside of those boundaries?
Yeah, 100%. You, as a head teacher and as a senior management team, you need to look at the curriculum, what's being taught, and that how it's delivered within the classroom as well, because there are strict standards. And if a school is failing in that way, then it's not good at all.
Fahima, what might the issues be with this, do you think, from your point of view? If a teacher brings their own ideas about identity politics, let's say, or actually just politics in general, into the classroom, should they be allowed to do that?
To be honest, I don't think that teachers actually will bring their own politics into it. I think it's just their style of teaching, regardless of their opinion. I don't think they can rewrite history. It's only about expanding it. And good teaching presents multiple perspectives, especially in a diverse country like Britain. And it doesn't mean it's erasing sort of any sort of content or traditional. It just means that we're just, adding different voices and critical thinking. That's the whole idea about education, is critical thinking and not blind agreement.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 10 to 2. Now, a revolutionary new Trojan horse drug is being rolled out on the NHS, offering terminal blood cancer patients new hope.
Yes, known as Blenrep, it can triple the time patients live without disease progression and targets cancer cells directly.
Well, the NHS is the first in the world to offer this new breakthrough drug.
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
What does that actually mean?
Cut
How does
in,
it work?
sorry.
Who's going to get it?
What's a Trojan horse drug?
Like a Trojan horse. It goes in like a Trojan horse to the... Well, let's get Lucy Johnson, our health and science editor, to explain it all. What is a Trojan horse drug?
Yeah, this is really exciting. So this is a drug that contains a special protein that, like a guided missile, targets the cancer cell and delivers a payload of toxic chemicals to the cancer cell and destroys that cancer cell and spares healthy tissue. So it's very specific. It's called a smart drug, and it is the first time patients are being able to have it routinely. However, it isn't for all cancer patients, all multiple myeloma cases. Only some patients will be eligible. And that's because the first line of treatment, the usual drugs that are being used for patients, are the ones that are tried and tested over years. And so the NHS regulator is saying patients must try that first. And when that fails, this drug can then be used. And this disease is actually an incurable disease. So it is really exciting for those patients. There are about 1,500 patients who will be eligible for the drug. And there's about 30,000 patients with the disease in all. So they're being treated with other things. And today, charities are getting a bit angry because they're saying that they think that this drug could be offered more widely, and they will be appealing to the health watchdog and asking it to look again at the evidence and to see if more people can have it. Because what it's shown is that the disease survival is tripled. So from an average of a year with this awful disease that causes bones to fracture, kidney function to fail, it actually extends their healthy survival, gets them moving again for up to 3 years. And the data doesn't go beyond that point, so it could be even longer. So it's a very interesting time.
Well, absolutely incredible. Lucy Johnston, thank you so much for talking us through that. What an exciting development in the world of drugs.
Absolutely. If the cancer cell is Troy, this drug is I don't know, who was in the horse? Odysseus?
It sneaks in there, sneaks into that cell and...
No, Theseus. It's got to be Theseus, isn't it?
Anyway, have you seen this clip? Darren Jones, a government minister, a senior government minister, making the claim that all of the people coming on, or the majority of people coming on board over to the English coast on dinghies are women, children and babies.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not.
No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Let me be... No.
Well, that was what Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, extraordinarily told the Question Time audience last night. Looking at them, it didn't look like many of them believed him.
He's trying to guilt-trip anyone who's concerned about the fact that huge numbers of undocumented men are crossing the channel. Trying to say, how could you be worried about such a thing? It's just women and babies. I mean, gaslighting or what?
That is the best use of this term, because he is literally asking us to not believe our own eyes when we see the pictures of these boats that are overwhelmingly young men, when we see the official government statistics that say by supermajorities the numbers coming over are young men.
It's Orwellian, isn't it? Get your thoughts in, gbnews.com/your say. Do you think he should issue a correction, at least, if not an apology? Anyway, number 10 says the Prime Minister has confidence in Darren Jones, adding we've been clear that our focus is on tackling these vile gangs who deal in human misery.
Interesting, though, Darren Jones is yet to comment. We're going to be chasing that all afternoon here on GB News, but do stay with us. There is much more to cover, including the very latest concerning developments in the Middle East. Don't move muscle.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another humid day and very warm out there for many of us, with plenty of sunshine initially, but also the threat of showers and even some torrential thunderstorms by the end of the day. Those thunderstorms moving up from the south, moving up from northern France and the Channel with this system. But ahead of that, we do have some sunshine across England and Wales, rising temperatures, rising humidity, a lot of cloud for northern England, for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showers here and some heavy downpours in places, but these will be hit and miss. They'll be coming and going. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise across central and eastern England, we could see widely the mid-20s, but possibility of 29 Celsius in London and the southeast. However, rising temperatures, rising humidity and low pressure arriving from the west will result in some very unsettled weather as we end the day. Some wet weather moving into the southwest of England and Wales by evening. The rush hour could be very soggy. Northern Ireland and Scotland continue with the sunshine and showers theme as we go into the evening. Again, some heavy downpours, particularly across central and northern Scotland. Drier and brighter for southern Scotland, into parts of northern England and eastern England for now, but we are particularly concerned about this area of torrential thunderstorms developing over northern France, and it looks likely that it will hit East Anglia in the southeast during the evening and the early hours of Saturday. If this hits East Anglia in the southeast, it would bring large hail, gusty winds, torrential rainfall and strong winds and serious impacts from this lively weather, but it could just head in the other direction and miss East Anglia in the southeast. So something to be concerned about, but not a guarantee that we'll see those thunderstorms arrive in eastern parts of England overnight. Now, elsewhere, a lot of showers as we start off Saturday, and again, potential for some thunderstorms, this time through central areas, but away from the storms, some sunshine.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh, I'm going to cry. Oh, my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Friday, the 13th of June. Lucky for some. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, are we on the brink of all-out war in the Middle East? Iran says that Israel's strikes on its nuclear facilities are indeed a declaration of war, as President Trump warns of even more brutal attacks to come.
Ballymena burning. Unrest in Northern Ireland shows no signs of abating as riots continue for a fourth successive night, with 63 police officers having sustained injuries. Officers brought in from Scotland as reinforcement.
And commemoration events are taking place in Nottingham today to mark 2 years since Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates were killed by Valdo Callacay. Now, we've got a little something to share today.
You pregnant?
It's cakes.
Oh.
There you go.
Go on, tell me why we've got cakes then,
Why
Tom.
have we got cakes? Why do they have a big 4 on them?
I think...
no! Emily!
That's OK, I'll eat this.
There's nothing for it, we're going to have to eat
It's
them.
the 4-second rule.
We're going to have to eat them.
We'll have to eat them.
But we've got these marvellous little cakes today. Oh, hello, Sam.
Hello, Sam.
We've got marvellous little cakes today because it is 4 years to the day since in this very studio, this very channel launched.
Which is quite incredible, isn't it? They said we wouldn't last a year. They said we wouldn't... No, I used to be...
Didn't last a week.
I used to be a panellist, didn't I? I used to come on all the shows and debate people and give my opinion.
And they thought, cool, she's good. We'll keep her around.
Then they put me on the screen and, you know, the rest is history. But yes, you've been around from day one.
I have. It was actually... the set looked slightly different, but it was in this area of the room where I sort of was there on the night. I was then political correspondent, and we were talking about how we want to cover politics on the channel differently. But...
and I think we did.
It's funny. It doesn't quite feel like 4 years. It's in some ways it's like GB News has always been here. It's part of the media landscape in the country.
You've aged a bit though. But you've got a more mature look now. Not that you look like old. I'm not saying you look haggard.
Got some greys. I do have some greys.
You just look more mature, you know, which is a good thing. You want it to look like a mature person when you're reading the news, don't you?
I think so. But I mean, there's one big element of all of this, aside from everyone that's on screen, the wonderful people who work behind that shining glass wall behind us, but also everyone watching. Because we wouldn't have survived 4 years without the support, without the love, without the just everything that everyone who watches this channel has given to this channel, who sort of has grown with this channel. I mean, it does feel... I think like it's a bit more than just a television station.
Go on, say it. It's a family. Oh. It's a family. No, we are actually guided by you, absolutely, every day. We think, you know, what do you at home want to know about? What do you care about? What are you interested in knowing about? What do you feel like the other media channels aren't bothering to speak about? Because so much about broadcasting and journalism and the way things are shown is about which stories you choose and what priority you give to different issues. And I think this channel does it differently.
Absolutely, and has been certainly a huge part of the national conversation on so many different issues, whether it's the small boats or the grooming gangs. It feels like this channel has been ahead of the curve consistently, perhaps even dragging other channels to talk about the issues that you at home clearly care about and perhaps are being underreported.
Absolutely, shifting the Overton window. You know, it's a good thing. You want to be able to speak freely about issues that matter to you. So thank you so much for joining us. Some of you have been around since day one. Others of you have only learned about GB News recently, but do stick around for longer. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues.
Absolutely.
Tell everyone you know.
And keep watching, because next year I want an even bigger cake.
Yes, it's a little bit small. Oh, there we go. OK, well, should we get to the headlines with Sam?
Very good afternoon to you. The top story at 2. Well, Iran is calling Israel's latest military strikes a declaration of war after a wave of attacks on nuclear and military sites. Israel says its new offensive, Operation Rising Lion, has only just begun, targeting scientists it claims are working on Iran's nuclear weapons programme. The Israeli military says 200 fighter jets were involved, and reports suggest Mossad smuggled drones into Iran in advance. In response, Iran launched around 100 drones, but they're seen so far as largely symbolic. Tehran's supreme leader has vowed punishment after key commanders and scientists were killed, while Israel is warning more strikes may follow. Iran wants the UN Security Council to intervene, but Israel says this is about survival. The sole survivor of the Air India crash has spoken from his hospital bed, saying he watched people, quote, dying in front of his eyes. The British national Vishwash Kumar Ramesh said his plane felt like it was stuck in the air before crashing into a medical college in Ahmedabad, killing 241 people. Tributes are pouring in as investigators search for answers. One black box has now been recovered, and the UK and US teams are joining the inquiry. In Northern Ireland, another night of unrest with bricks and beer kegs thrown at police in Portadown. The violence follows a peaceful protest on Monday in Ballymena over an alleged sexual assault, but police say that was hijacked by racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured, families have hidden in attics, and a leisure centre that was used as shelter was torched. The PSNI chief constable says ethnic minorities have been targeted in what's now being called racist thuggery. More than 15 arrests have been made so far, and officers from Scotland are now being brought in as reinforcements. MPs have returned to debate the assisted dying bill in the Commons today, with concerns raised about it being promoted on platforms like TikTok. Labour MP Kim Leadbeater wants tight rules banning adverts for assisted dying services if the bill becomes law. But critics say the proposed ban still leaves loopholes. Opponents are warning of a slippery slope and risks to vulnerable people, while supporters say it's about choice, dignity and proper safeguards. The final vote on that bill is expected next Friday. Kemi Badenoch has called for an end to the windfall tax on oil and gas firms and a return to new drilling licences. Speaking earlier at the Scottish Conservative Conference in Edinburgh, the Conservative leader accused the Labour government, of killing the energy sector. Labour hit back, though, saying it's an unfunded £10 billion pledge that risks pushing up mortgages and bills. And they say the Tories are in a race with Nigel Farage to repeat Liz Truss-style economics. And patients in England are the first in the world to receive a new therapy that targets blood cancer with pinpoint precision. It's called belantamab mafodotin, and it works by smuggling toxic chemotherapy directly into myeloma cells, sparing healthy ones and cutting side effects. Clinical trials show it can halt the disease for nearly 3 times longer than current treatments. It could mean around 1,500 patients each year could benefit, and doctors say it could be the start of a new era in cancer treatment. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Tom and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past 2, and since the last hour, the number has almost doubled. Yes, now at least 600 small boat migrants have arrived on UK soil today, crossing the Channel, with hundreds more still making the attempt.
Well, we're joined by GB News Home Security Editor Mark White. You've got your man on the ground there in Dover for us. What are the numbers looking like then?
Well, 600 at least have now crossed into UK waters. The Border Force vessel Volunteer is the latest Border Force vessel that has been picking up from a migrant boat out now on the line, basically, into UK waters. There's at least one more, we think, possibly more en route out there. So I think we're probably going to be close to 700, maybe more, by the end of today. Another really busy day. And the fact is, it's been so busy again that Border Force vessels, the Border Force vessels that are on duty today, have been overwhelmed, and they've had to call in assistance from the RNLI. Not one, not two, but 3 lifeboats. The main lifeboats that cover that area around Kent, Ramsgate, Dover and Dungeness, all out picking up migrants. So if there were any emergencies at sea, as happen fairly regularly on a daily basis for these lifeboats, then there is no one immediately able to respond to this. And we saw this the other week when we had that record day of more than 1,000 migrants crossing in a single day. Border Force overwhelmed, lifeboats called out, and actually then the Coast Guard asking fishing boats and passing shipping to help a yacht that had got into difficulties and was taking on water, kayakers that had got into difficulties as well. So it has all kinds of ramifications, the significant numbers crossing the Channel, and still they come. I think by the end of today, just 2 days ago, we broke the news on GB News that we had passed 15,000 small boat migrants for the year so far, well ahead of where we were last year. 2 days later, we're going to be at 16,000 for the year.
It just so encapsulates the failure of a system that people who are attempting to apply for asylum in this country know that the way to do it is to do this merry-go-round that everyone knows that they're going to do, that authorities play along with as soon as they get to the 11th mile of the Channel and are suddenly in British waters. And as a result of that, we get depleted rescue services for our own coast. The RNLI saved my life. It must have been around 2010. I'd fallen, I'd scraped down a cliff in Salcombe, and
oh dear,
an RNLI boat had to come out. They thought I might have broken my spine. Thankfully, I hadn't.
Oh my goodness, Tom.
But I just worry. I mean, if all of these boats are busy doing journeys that are entirely voluntary, acting as this part of this service of this ludicrous merry-go-round, how many people who, like me in 2010, might have slipped down a cliff, will now not be getting the care and attention that they need?
Yeah, no, it's a very valid point. And, you know, the RNLI will say, look, they're duty-bound to respond to what are unseaworthy vessels out in the Channel in busy shipping lanes. If Border Force can't manage it, then they'll step in and they'll assist. But yes, of course, they get a lot of flack for it. But of course, amidst all this, and with, again, very significant numbers crossing the Channel today, is this row, this political row, because of what the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, said on Question Time last night when he was in a debate about this with Reform's Zia Yusuf, claiming, it seems, he did and didn't retract it and hasn't retracted it since, that the majority of those on the small boats were women and children. Let's take a listen.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not.
No, they're not. No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Let me be... No.
Interesting, the audience weren't having any of it either.
Unusual for a question time.
Very unusual for a question time.
Well, people can see with their own eyes, and the truth of it is that 73 or so % of those who have crossed the English Channel since 2018 have been adult males. It's more in recent years. It's up about 83 or so % of those crossing are adult males. So we know that. I mean, I will say that on quite a number of the boats, you will see 1, 2 women with a couple of children. They do that deliberately. It's cynical, calculated by the people smugglers to put a couple of women and children on each of these boats so that they know that the French who are escorting them across are telling the UK authorities, or they're calling them on their mobile phone when they get to UK waters and they're saying, we've got women and children on board, guaranteeing an immediate response from the likes of Border Force or the RNLI.
We did speak to the Labour MP Mike Tapp a little bit earlier in the show. He's the member for Dover and Deal, and of course is you know, trying to convince people that he's tough on this issue. He just said, you know, you'll have to ask Darren. He said that he did confirm that the majority of those on these boats are men. So it's not everyone in the Labour Party who's trying to convince the public that somehow they're all women and tiny babies. But there you go. Will we hear from Darren Jones on this, or will he try and, you know...
Well, we've heard from the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, who's called for an apology and a correction from Darren Jones.
OK,
well, we've been chasing after that. I know our political team are on it. We'll bring you any response that we've had from Darren Jones as and when we get it. But we should say Number 10 has put out a statement. They say the Prime Minister does have confidence in Darren Jones after that remark, adding, we have been clear that our focus is on tackling these vile gangs who deal in human misery.
OK, well, in other news, Israel have assassinated the head of Iran's armed forces and at least 20 senior commanders in what they're calling a preemptive strike on the regime's nuclear programmes.
Well, Iran launched more than 100 drones towards Israel this morning in retaliation, but Israel's military now say that they've completed their response to strike them down.
An Israeli military spokesperson has said Iran launched more than 100 drones towards Israel this morning after the country vowed retaliation for Israel's strikes. He added the country was in for a rough few hours.
Well, for his part, the Prime Minister has said that the government has urged all parties to step back and reduce tensions urgently amidst fears of an all-out war.
OK, well, joining us now is broadcaster and journalist Jonathan Sakadotti. Jonathan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. A worrying time for people around the world, particularly, of course, in Israel and Iran. What's the latest?
Well, we are witnessing an extraordinary moment here in Israel. The country's launched a massive operation deep inside Iran to eliminate what it sees as an existential nuclear threat. And the scale and precision of those strikes is absolutely unprecedented. So far, there's been very little response that Israelis have felt. During the early hours of last night, we were woken up here with the sirens that they've become quite used to from incoming rockets and drones from other parts. But those sirens last night were different because they literally were across the whole country, and the alerts that come up on people's phones were different as well. They said they were urgent alerts, urging people to stay near their safe rooms or near the safe spaces that they could get to. And that, of course, was because they had started these strikes, this Operation Rising Lion, as they're calling it, over in Iran. And since then, the instructions have actually been loosened a bit, saying people can relax a bit more. Obviously, still try to stay near safe spaces in case. But that is partly because they say things went better than expected. They even managed to blow up the ballistic missiles that they were expecting Iran to use immediately in response to the strikes.
I mean, this is such a moment for the Middle East, where things seem to be balancing on a knife edge. I mean, this does have the potential, perhaps more so, I mean, I think unarguably more so than the previous time that there was an exchange of hostilities between Israel and Iran. This has a greater potential to escalate. But I suppose the Israeli argument might be that on the other side of the ledger, if Iran does get its hands on nuclear weapons, that is the start of a further escalation, because no doubt Saudi Arabia would then want to get its hands on nuclear weapons. The Iranian proxies would likely have some sort of access to those. Iraq might then, and you suddenly have a Middle East just bristling with nuclear warheads.
Well, the method that Iran has used during decades of animosity towards Israel, and let's not forget that it has a declared aim to eradicate the state of Israel, the method that it's used has been to create this network of proxies around Israel, whether it has been Hezbollah in the north, in Lebanon, or whether it's been in Syria or in the south, in Yemen with the Houthis, or indeed in the Gaza Strip with Hamas. And the aim of that has been that Israel really could be attacked from all directions. But over the last 2 years now, Israel has been fighting back after the 7th of October atrocities carried out by Palestinian terrorists who went over the border from Gaza into southern Israel, killing, raping, and kidnapping. And as a result, Israel has managed to actually achieve some spectacular military victories. It's really very drastically weakened Hezbollah in the north. Obviously, there's been the overthrow of the Assad regime in Syria. Hamas is now really crumbling in the Gaza Strip. And that has meant that Israel is actually able now to bring the fight directly to Iran without the fear that those proxies are going to be able to react in the way that they might have done if Israel had done that. And
sorry, we're just running out of time. Jonathan, what do you say to those who are criticising Israel today, saying that they should not have acted in this unilateral fashion, that they should have spoken to the United States and other allies, and that this is a massive mistake in terms of the potential for escalation? What would you say? Do people understand the threat of Iran?
I think anybody that tells you that the United States wasn't in lockstep with Israel on this has been falling for the decoys that both countries have been putting out. The US has said it was keen to negotiate, but Donald Trump gave a 60-day deadline to the Iranians, and this happened on day 61, which he's now actually tweeted about himself. So I think it's very clear that the US is supporting this, even if perhaps Keir Starmer in the UK isn't quite as behind Israel doing this as he should be. France has even now come out, and Macron has said that he supports Israel's ability to do this because diplomacy simply hasn't worked. The IAEA has now said, finally, that Iran has been breaking its obligations under the non-proliferation agreements. And so this is really, unfortunately, the inevitable result of the Iranian actions.
So this has happened the day after Trump's deadline. OK, very interesting. Jonathan Sakadote, thank you very much indeed, broadcaster and journalist in Israel. Thank you very much.
Well, goodness me, let's see the wider context of this, because, of course, Iran is now saying that this was an act of war from Israel. But what does this mean for Iran as a country? Joining us is the political activist and founder of Iran Front, Vahid Beheshti. Thanks so much for joining us, Vahid. This, of course, a hugely concerning time, and everyone fears of escalation.
Thank you for having me here. Actually, this is not, let me make it clear, this is not war between Iranian people and the people of Israel. The people of Israel and the people of Iran are having great relationship. And this is the moment, actually, that the Iranian people are have been waiting for it for years now. So if you see the videos that come out of Iran, the people of Iran are happy, dancing all around the countries when they see the death of the murderers of their children. These people, I would say more than 20 high senior top commanders of IRGC and other military of the regime are the murderers of Iranian people, are the children of Iranians. I am as the only figure who gave a speech a year and a half ago in the Knesset and addressed the ministers in the Knesset. I have said that for the first time we should not be afraid to target IRGC sites, their nuclear sites, and the House of High Officials in Iran. The Iranian people are paper tiger. They all are propaganda. And now today, after a year and a half that gone past, after my speech in the Knesset in Jerusalem, now the whole world witnessing they are paper tiger. They are nothing. After last night, this is just the start. Very deep and precise, I emphasize, precise military operation of Israel, which is continue. The people seeing the very little response from the Iranian regime. And this is the only way to neutralize the nuclear threat of the Iranian regime, because as Rafael Garossi, the head of IAEA, stated 3 days ago, their nuclear program and site are very complicated, layer by layer, and are hidden in different sites all over Iran. So to neutralize their nuclear threat.
Sorry to cut in because we're running out of time, but Vahid, what proportion of the Iranian people would share the view on this, that Israel is right to attack?
With absolute confidence here, I say more than 80% of Iranians are against this regime. This regime has got nothing to do with Iranian people. This regime is the enemy of Iranian people. They're plundering their wealth. They're destroying their identity and their culture. And the people of Iran are standing by Israel. 2 weeks after my trip to Jerusalem and my statement in Knesset, the people of Iran, they hung 6 meters banner in Tehran from one of the big bridges that they said Vahid Beheshti is our voice and we stand by the people of Israel. We stand by Israel. If you look at the different walls in Iran, in different cities, constantly you see they write, we are standing by Israel. So these Iranian people and Israelis are not only fighting for themselves today, they are fighting for the whole world as the terrorist network of Iranian regime reach to the European communities. We are witnessing it in London, in different cities of Europe. So they're fighting for all of us today.
But thank you very much for speaking so passionately to us this afternoon. Vahid Beheshti there, political activist and founder of Iran Front. I think not enough people understand how the Iranian regime works and just how brutal it is to its own people.
I mean, we've all seen the pictures. Women and girls going to society.
It's worth speaking to a lot of Iranian people about how sad they are, about how their country is at the moment. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Yes, Ballymena, Northern Ireland, flames as unrest continues into its 4th day. 63 police officers confirmed to have been injured. We're going to bring you the very latest from Northern Ireland in just a few minutes. Stick with us.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Welcome to Dunkirk. Yes, this was was described as our darkest hour. And of course it was British expeditionary forces that had to get lifted off the beaches. And the real problem was that the big naval ships couldn't get in close enough. So these little small boats that you see, 933 of them, were called up and they managed to evacuate most of the troops out of there over that week period. And unfortunately, out of those 933 small boats, unfortunately, only 697 of them returned. The majority of those that were wrecked at that stage were under enemy fire. And every big anniversary, these small ships return to Dunkirk to educate, to remember, and then to sail back to Britain. And there has been so much interest here in Dunkirk and these small ships.
How important is it that we remember Dunkirk?
Incredibly important. 85 years ago, there were 250,000 troops on the beach up there, another 25,000 in the rear guard. None of them knowing whether they were going to live or die, or whether they were going to be rescued, or even if they could be rescued. And based upon what's happening today, we need to remember what happened then, and commemorate that and celebrate the fact that we still are aware of it, and these boats exist as well. So it's just so important to us.
Lots of these little boats back in the day were only brand new,
yes.
and the Admiralty just took them away and used them.
Yeah.
And the men that were on them didn't necessarily own them, and there was quite a few of them destroyed.
There were 240 of them destroyed over that whole period.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 2. Now, police in Northern Ireland are under attack for a fourth consecutive night as disorder spills across more towns.
Yes, missiles hurled at officers in Portadown, continuing the chaos first ignited in Ballymena earlier this week.
Well, it comes as the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, piles on the pressure, calling on the Communities Minister, Gordon Lyons, to consider his future.
Well, GBNews Northern Ireland reporter Doogie Petey has the latest.
Yes, rather sadly, last night saw the fourth night of violence inside Northern Ireland, but this time it wasn't in Ballymena. It was in the Middlester town of Portadown, and about 7:30, a large group of people gathered for a protest in the centre of the town over illegal immigration, over housing and over cultural needs inside this area. Now, as the police tried to disperse that protest, a group of youths broke off from it and came over this bridge behind me where a flashpoint emerged with the police service. The police then tried to push them further up the road and managed to put them into a housing estate behind us where it really becomes a rat run. Now, PSNI had massive resources here last night. They had helicopters, drones, huge amounts of snatched Land Rovers, dog units, water cannon, and they were using them all, including plastic bullets. 9 rounds were fired. There were numerous arrests and some officers were injured. But this all sparked off because of the assault of a 13-year-old girl in Ballymena at the weekend. Now, that has caused real fear in the community, especially those areas where migrants are sent into social housing, mainly controlled by government bodies. And what we end up happening is we have ghettos of different people that arrive in, and none of them are mixing inside the community. But the Chief Constable of Northern Ireland, John Boucher, has appealed for those to stop. But unfortunately, the politicians are not helping him by accusing anyone involved in these riots of being far-right thugs and racists. Really, it is now time for the politicians to get involved, get round a table and listen to the people that are on the streets.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it, Tom? It's all well and good politicians standing there and saying stop. OK, fine, no one wants to see this kind of destruction in their community or in Northern Ireland from away from Northern Ireland. But essential to actually speak to people, find out what people are actually worried about here. Why is there such unrest? Why is there such a difficulty? Why is Northern Ireland a tinderbox when it comes to issues of immigration, integration, illegal, legal? I mean, the situation with the housing, incredibly precarious.
And no one should ever try to act outside the political process. But also people within the political process. People within the political process should understand why people think that there's no other way to express themselves. I mean, how many times have we voted for example, lower migration?
Yeah.
And it just completely goes the other way. I mean, if governments continue to be elected saying one thing and in government do another, this is the risk.
Yeah. And then you've got people like Darren Jones claiming that everyone on the boats over the English Channel are women, children and babies. But there you go. It's Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Still to come tomorrow is the traditional Trooping the Colour ceremony to mark the King's official birthday, with His Majesty set to be in attendance.
Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker will have all the details after this.
Delightful.
Very good afternoon to you. 32 minutes past 2. The top story. Iran is calling Israel's latest military strikes a declaration of war. That's after a wave of attacks on nuclear and military sites. Iran's state media has just released a statement on their Telegram channel claiming that 78 people were killed, 329 injured during those strikes on areas of Tehran overnight. Israel says its new offensive, Operation Rising Lion, though, has only just begun. targeting scientists it claims are working on Iran's nuclear program. The Israeli military says 200 fighter jets were involved. In response, Iran launched around 100 drones, but they're seen largely symbolic so far. Tehran's supreme leader has vowed punishment after key commanders and scientists were killed, while Israel warns more strikes may follow. The sole survivor of the Air India crash has spoken from his hospital bed, saying he watched people dying in front of his eyes. British national Vishwas Kumar Ramesh says the plane felt like it was stuck in the air before crashing into a medical college in Ahmedabad, killing 241 people. Tributes are pouring in as investigators are searching for answers. We now know one black box has been recovered, and UK and US teams are joining the inquiry. In Northern Ireland, another night of unrest as bricks and beer kegs were thrown at police in Portadown. The violence follows a peaceful protest on Monday over an alleged sexual assault, but police say that was hijacked by racist thugs. 41 officers have been injured, families have hidden in attics, and a leisure centre was used as a shelter, but torched. The PSNI chief constable says ethnic minorities have been targeted, and more than 15 arrests have been made so far. Officers from Scotland are now being brought in as reinforcements. And MPs have returned to debate the assisted dying bill in the Commons, with concerns raised about it being promoted on platforms like TikTok. Labour MP Kim Leadbeater wants tight rules banning adverts for assisted dying services if the bill becomes law. But critics say the proposed ban still leaves loopholes. Opponents warn of a slippery slope and risks to vulnerable people, while supporters say it's about choice, dignity and proper safeguards. The final vote on that bill is expected next Friday. That's it from me for this afternoon. Lewis Mackenzie will have a full roundup of all today's top stories at 3 o'clock, and Tom and Emily will be back with you after this.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another humid day and very warm out there for many of us, with plenty of sunshine initially, but also the threat of showers and even some torrential thunderstorms by the end of the day. Those thunderstorms moving up from the south, moving up from northern France and the Channel with this system. But ahead of that, we do have some sunshine across England and Wales, rising temperatures, rising humidity, a lot of cloud for northern England, for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showers here and some heavy downpours in places, but these will be hit and miss. They'll be coming and going. Meanwhile, as temperatures rise across central and eastern England, we could see widely the mid-20s, but possibility of 29 Celsius in London and the southeast. However, rising temperatures, rising humidity and low pressure arriving from the west will result in some very unsettled weather as we end the day. Some wet weather moving into the southwest of England and Wales by evening. The rush hour could be very soggy. Northern Ireland and Scotland continue with the sunshine and showers theme as we go into the evening. Again, some heavy downpours, particularly across central and northern Scotland. Drier and brighter for southern Scotland, into parts of northern England and eastern England for now, but we are particularly concerned about this area of torrential thunderstorms developing over northern France, and it looks likely that it will hit East Anglia in the southeast during the evening and the early hours of Saturday. If this hits East Anglia in the southeast, it would bring large hail, gusty winds, torrential rainfall and strong winds and serious impacts from this lively weather, but it could just head in the other direction and miss East Anglia in the southeast. So something to be concerned about, but not a guarantee that we'll see those thunderstorms arrive in eastern parts of England overnight. Now, elsewhere, a lot of showers as we start off Saturday, and again, potential for some thunderstorms, this time through central areas, but away from the storms, some sunshine.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Traffic is slowly moving on the M4 eastbound between Junction 30, Cardiff Gate, and Junction 26, Malpas, due to congestion. Expect significant delays. The A50 in Staffordshire is congested between the A521 Blythe Bridge East and the junction with the A518 Uttoxeter East, delays around 40 minutes. Normal traffic is anticipated later this evening, and on the trains, major disruption affects East Midlands Railway and Thameslink routes between London St Pancras International and Luton. Adverse weather today may further impact journeys. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 38 minutes past 2, and it's a very important couple of days for King Charles as he presents 4 new colours to the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the Coldstream Guards to mark the regiment's 375th year.
Yes, this comes the day before His Majesty attends the traditional Trooping the Colour ceremony to mark his official birthday.
Well, to tell us more is our very own royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, a busy day for the King.
Good afternoon. Yes, it was the King in Windsor Castle presenting the new colours to the Coldstream Guards, which, fun fact, is the oldest continuous serving regiment in the British Army, dating back to 1650 at the time of the English Civil War. They are the ones who will be trooping their colour on Horse Guards Parade yesterday, marking the King's official birthday. But we do have a clip of His Majesty presenting the colours to the Coldstream Guards this afternoon.
As your Colonel-in-Chief, I bestow these colours into your safekeeping in the knowledge that you will continue to uphold the very highest standards of military prowess and indomitable spirit that your regiment has shown over the last 375 years.
The King also paying tributes to the family members of the Coldstream Guards. Of course, we have to remember they're not just there for ceremonial purposes, wearing those big black bearskin hats. They are on military operations as well. They've been deployed to Iraq, Africa as well, and other countries around the world. And it is quite perhaps poignant for the King tomorrow, and it was pointed out actually by the Sunday Times royal editor Roya Nika that, of course, yesterday we had the awful plane crash that took place, killing a number of British citizens and a Canadian citizen as well. And in 2017, before her birthday parade, just after the Grenfell Tower fire, the Queen actually changed her birthday celebrations because she felt it wouldn't be right to have such a big celebration just so soon after such a national tragedy. And she actually came out of Buckingham Palace ahead of the procession and led the nation in a minute's silence. And considering what Roya Nika said, I wonder if the King may do the same thing tomorrow. We've not had confirmation at all from Buckingham Palace, but I'm just predicting maybe something may happen to reflect that awful tragedy because, of course, it is the King's official birthday. It's meant to be a time of celebration in the British calendar, but, of course, happening so soon after such a tragic event, it is kind of right that the King leads the nation in tribute to a disaster such as that.
That's a very good point. Yes, 52 British nationals that we know of perished.
Absolutely.
And almost everyone on that plane a Commonwealth citizen too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course, India is a Commonwealth country. The King is head of the Commonwealth. And tomorrow we are expecting to have lots of pomp and pageantry, as you would expect. A procession from Buckingham Palace down to Horse Guards Parade. Of course, Coldstream Guards trooping their colour. There will be other Household Division regiments on display as well. Members of the royal family, including the Prince and Princess of Wales, and the 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, all expected to be there. We'll be looking out on that balcony to see if Prince Louis causes any antics, as he usually does.
What time is this all taking place?
So GB News will be live from 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're bringing you full coverage from Buckingham Palace and Horse Guards Parade.
And you'll be leading that coverage, will you?
It'll be myself, Charlie Peters, Miriam Cates, and alongside special guests Michael Ellis and Pandora Forsyth.
Fantastic. Sounds great.
And it looks like the weather forecast will be particularly nice tomorrow as well.
Yes, really nice, unless you are a member of the Household Division wearing a very hot red tunic and bearskin cap.
That's a good point.
So they may struggle in the heat, but I'm sure they'll be fine. They're serving soldiers, aren't they?
Before,
we have seen fainters. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody faints again.
That's not a reason.
You're always there for the drama, Tom, aren't you? Always there for the drama.
Obviously, I'll be watching mainly for the King and for all the... But if there is a fainter, I mean that does...
Everyone seems on the fainter.
Of course, you have to remember the King, of course, has cancer, is undergoing a weekly cycle of cancer treatment, so he probably, like last year, won't be on horseback. back, as is tradition. He will be in a carriage, of course, mindful of his medical diagnosis.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be tuning in tomorrow at 10 to see what's going on.
Thank you.
That'll be with Cameron Walker, Miriam Cates, Charlie Peters and a selection of wonderful guests. So you'll want to stay tuned tomorrow.
But do stay with us here on Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Much more to cover. We've got a special surprise for you coming up in the next segment. So do look forward to that.
Surprise for me too.
But in the meantime, we've told you what the weather's going to be like in, around Buckingham Palace tomorrow. But should we check how the weather's looking slightly further afield?
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Temperatures are on the rise this week, particularly across parts of Spain and Portugal. It's likely we'll see heatwave conditions over the coming days. And with the hot temperatures comes plenty of sunshine, particularly across Spain, Portugal, though we can't rule out a few showers across southern parts of France, northern parts of Italy on Saturday. But otherwise, it's plenty of hot sunshine, particularly across Italy, where we'll start to see temperatures move into the mid-30s. And that sunshine is set to continue into next week, along with the hot weather.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Still to come, that special surprise. Might it have something to do with the fact that it's the 4-year anniversary of GB News? Now, I wasn't on the channel, I don't believe, on day one, but a certain someone sitting next to me certainly was.
It might have been. It might have been.
OG. You were the original.
But it's incredible to see how this channel has developed, has grown and gone from success to success ever since that day 4 years ago.
It's not all down to you, Tom.
No, I'm not suggesting for a moment that it was. It wasn't not. No.
Anyway, let's take a break.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow, join GB News as we mark the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, hosted by Charlie Peters, Miriam Cates and me, Cameron Walker, live from Buckingham Palace. From 10 a.m. tomorrow on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 48 minutes past 2 and today is a very special day. Can you guess why?
It's Friday?
Yeah, that's a good reason. It's also Friday the 13th, unlucky for some. But, well, I mean, perhaps it was a slightly unlucky day to launch on for this channel 4 years ago, but it is, yes, the 4th birthday of GB News.
Excellent stuff. GB News was born, launching its first live broadcast on this day in 2021, June the 13th.
So, shall we take a little look back?
And one of the things that people told us in Margate, actually, is that they felt that the news was so dour all the time, that it was so depressing. And sometimes, actually, it would be nice to hear about some of the successes of this country, about some of the good things. And yes, that doesn't mean that we don't hold politicians to account, but it also means that we can say, and we can feel that we can say, when things go right.
Where's your tie, Tom? Absolute disgrace.
About 6 months
What a
in,
scruff.
orders from on high, Tom.
What an
Smarten
absolute
up,
scruff.
wear a tie.
Well, you look better with a tie on, I must say.
But I was sat, we had a slightly different set, but it's exactly the same room. I was sat about here.
Yes.
And then you had Inaya and Darren on either side, and this was the big launch when sort of we went around and everyone was saying what everyone
I thought you did very well there, Tom. Well, in the last few minutes, Conservative MP for Tatton and firm member of the GB News family, Esther McVeigh, has actually sent us a message.
Happy 4th birthday, GB News. I know the station will be celebrating in style. Well, look, I was there at the very beginning. Why? Because I believed in GB News's vision of being a channel based on free speech, to be a channel of the people and a voice of the nation. Well, GB News was a welcome and much-needed addition to the media landscape, not frightened to cover issues that other news channels ran away from. So I'm delighted the station continues to grow and is going from strength to strength. Happy birthday and well done, GB News, and to the whole GB News family. Keep watching, keep tuning in. Great news. Happy birthday, GB News.
What a delight there from Esther McVeigh. Spot on.
Absolutely. We'll have to send Esther a cake, actually. I think there are some cakes left.
Oh, they're here, yeah. Yeah, there's loads of cakes left. We didn't scoff them all.
Do you know what? These cakes are actually for the people the very hard-working producers behind the screen behind us. But we've been hogging them in the studio. This is terrible. We should
share them.
Get to the end of the show and share them about.
Well, we should give one to Adrian Gell, who's a GB News viewer, who's just about to join us. Adrian, thank you so much. Adrian, now, tell me, were you with us from the start?
I think probably from about a month after the start. But I remember Tom had slightly longer hair in those days as well.
Yes, he had that kind of dishevelled, floppy look, didn't he?
I've smartened up in the last couple of years, perhaps.
But look, I'm helping you celebrate. I've opened a bottle of fizz for you, and I'm raising it to you and the team. Many congratulations and happy birthday.
You're a man after my own heart. I can't wait to have the fizz very soon indeed. But Adrian, so how did you find out about GB News? Was it word of mouth? Did you see it online? How did you find out about us?
Well, a lot's happened, Emily, in the last 4 years. And to be perfectly honest, I can't really remember. I have a sneaking suspicion that somebody had said to me, have you ever watched GB News? And I said no. So I thought, well, I'll put it on. And I have to say, I've never looked back. I've sacked ITV, definitely sacked the BBC, sacked Sky. I'm an absolute follower of you guys. And you deserve every moment of your 4 years of celebration.
Well, thank you so much, Adrian. And to be honest, it is people who have stuck with us through the thick and thin. Because at the start there were some teething problems. There was the occasional camera that decided to swivel around the wrong way, the lights that would turn out, the set that looked slightly less shiny and perhaps professional than it does today. But I suppose that's one of the amazing things about this channel. People feel like they've been with us through the thick and thin, growing with the channel. It breeds that sort of sense of familiarity.
And I'm selling your benefits every day still, constantly I say to people, you need to tune in to GB News if you believe in free speech, free market, a balanced view. I said they have MPs from the right, MPs from the left, fantastic presenters in yourselves, Nana, Mark, who's coming on shortly. And it's a great channel to be part of.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's a wonderful place to work, but it's also fantastic to meet viewers and listeners. And I must say, I'm meeting more and more people who watch this channel every week out there across the country, whether it's in London or whether it's around the town. You're in Darlington last week.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday.
Lots of people came up to us in Darlington, actually.
I imagine so. It's a fantastic sense of community. So, Adrian, 4 years on, what can we do better, Adrian?
Cut the advertising. The advertising goes on too long, and they're too repetitive. And
Adrian, we've got to pay the bills. We've got to keep the lights on.
Their message across yet. Too late. Yeah, find some others.
Well, Adrian Gell, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for being with us since almost the start. Really appreciate you. And, of course, everyone else who's joined us on this amazing journey.
Glass of fizz. Cheers.
Well, up next, it's Miriam Cates, standing in for Martin Daubney.
Good afternoon, Tom. Good afternoon, Emily. We've got lots coming up in the next few hours. Well, of course, we're going to be looking at those record small boat crossings. The Chancellor said she's going to end the use of hotels for illegal immigrants. But what exactly is she going to do, given the more and more people that are coming across every day? We're going to be looking at the Israel-Iran situation. Trump now seems to be in favour of what the Israelis have done. But is he at risk of pulling the US into a regional war? That's all coming up after your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It could be a lively night of weather for many places. It's going to start off very warm and humid, and then the risk of some torrential thunderstorms with large hail, lightning and gusty winds. Already developments are taking place across northern France, and they're going to drift north during the afternoon and the evening, with rain soon enough spreading into parts of Wales and the southwest, heavy rain in places with some rumbles of thunder. But it's this area of thunderstorms that we are particularly concerned about. Moving in from northern France, its exact location and direction is uncertain still, but there is the risk for parts of East Anglia and the southeast of large hail, gusty winds, torrential rain as well. Could cause some serious impacts in places. It moves into the North Sea by dawn. Meanwhile, some heavy rain moves into parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. And again, some rumbles of thunder associated with this. But it's a wet start through parts of eastern and southeastern Scotland. Areas of rain also moving through southwest Scotland, as well as showers. Northern Ireland, and some lively showers developing even early on Saturday across parts of North Wales into northern England. A brief gap in the weather across the Midlands, the south and south of England, but even here, the chance during the morning of Saturday of further thundery showers developing. And really it's the north of the UK where we're likely to see the heaviest rain during Saturday, particularly parts of northeast England and southeast Scotland, with the chance of further thunderstorms. But further south and towards the far northwest, some drier and brighter weather. It's going to feel warm once again in East Anglia and the southeast, 26 or 27 Celsius, but much cooler elsewhere because of those outbreaks of rain and thundery showers. A wet end to the day then across much of Scotland, northern England, as well as parts of Northern Ireland, but the rain is going to ease and peel away through the night. Sunday's a quieter day, still some showery weather in the north of the UK, but drier towards the south, and that drier and warmer weather extends northwards through next week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.